Hello.
Hello. How are you today?
I'm fine, I think.
Yeah.
I currently have this kind of thing where I wake up a little bit too late,
Uh-huh.
and sometimes it's annoying, sometimes it's okay.
hmm Yeah, I'm still kind of recovering from the cold that I had last week, so there might be some coughing noises. That's why I've got a soda in front of me today instead of the typical coffee, because I found that for whatever reason, I think the carbonation kind of helps my throat.
Yes,
Yeah.
carbonation is always good.
Anyway, I am Percival Fine. I'm here with Maxi Berger, and this is the OreKara podcast. And
Yes.
today we're going to be covering issue 19 of Weekly Shonen Jump.
Mm. We're only reading like 2/3 of all chapters that are in the issue. So also, and this week, I think we're not going to talk about everything in depth because some stuff is really nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't deserve it. All right, anyway, first
Yeah,
off,
it
here's the
really doesn't.
cover. Blue Box gets a. Or is this Blue Box? This is
Yeah,
Blue
this
Box, right?
this blue box.
Yeah, they get a cover color, or a color cover.
Color cover.
Yeah, it's cute. I like the transparency effect on the Shonen Jump text. I always like
Maybe
when they
this
do that.
is. I think this might be a new trend that
Mm.
they're doing.
Yeah, well, good job, whoever does the formatting for the cover. It looks really nice.
Yeah, much better than back in the day.
hmm Yeah, stylish even. All right, and starting off, here's the color page, the color spread for it.
We
All
got the
these,
Japanese one and the
yeah,
English
yeah.
version,
Of
and
course,
as
always the
always,
Japanese with more text
the
on it.
Japanese looks way better with the text, and also the background is a little bit more saturated.
Yeah, that's a bit interesting. Just the slight difference in the coloring.
It's so subdued in
hmm
English.
Yeah. Oh, and there's a little like let me move it so you can see it. There's a little advertisement for merch, and it was one of the color pages on a previous month that we both admired, where it had
Oh
a
yeah,
subway station or a train station.
that one.
Very nice. And there's all these characters I don't recognize.
Honestly, neither do I. Whoops.
That's all right.
Neither do I because a lot of those don't even have names in the
Okay.
series itself.
Wow.
I
They're just the
think
extras.
two of them of the other badminton players in the background, the one with the bangs and the one without the bangs. I think I would be able to remember their names maybe, but also
But not today.
everybody else is so nothing. It's really hard. I don't
Yeah.
even know the name of the best friend with the glasses in the
Oh.
bottom right.
So how what? It's me, Percival.
It's not, no.
Yeah, I'll move so you can see what you're talking about. Anyway, how was this chapter? I again did not read Blue Box.
It was a very well, a very nothing burger. It was nothing significant
The
happened,
opposite of a
and
maxi burger, a nothing burger.
yes, at least it wasn't unpleasant. Let's say that. But
Okay, well, unlike some
like,
things this week.
there's one thing that I wanted to highlight in the beginning. Taiki mentions how, there is always somebody I look forward to meeting when I wake up, and it's Chinatsu senpai. When he gets up, she might already be in the bathroom, and she tells him like, "Oh, you have awful bed hair," and they both do the same gesture to cover the head. And when she notices that they're mirroring each other, she says, "Now we look like a couple of dummies."
Oh.
And I know this is an English translation thing, but it really reminded me of the meme that somebody posted of somebody's Facebook photo where a dude and his female friend are taking a photo of each other, and the dude is obvious like, "We look so much like a couple here, ha!" And
this is the Facebook message version of when you put out the heart hand.
yeah,
The other
that's
person gives a
exactly the
thumbs
same.
up. Yeah.
And she replies, "Couple of besties." Oh, it hurts. This is one of those images that make you
cause
feel
pain.
pain.
Yeah. It's hilarious.
So unfortunate, but or rather, let's say fortunate congruence in the English translation.
Yeah.
So the whole chapter is about Taiki and Chinatsu Senpai realizing that if they were born in the same year, they'd be sitting together next to each other in class, and that's the main thing of the whole chapter. There's some few side events, like the class is announcing their activity for the culture festival, which is a play on. They're doing a play. They're doing Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Oh,
which
that's illegal now, isn't it?
Is it?
No, it's just I think Disney was going to do a Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs remake, and then the hero Tyrion Lannister, Peter Dinklage, came out and canceled the project by saying that's offensive to dwarves. And I saw that there were some other dwarf actors who were like, "No, don't cancel it. That would have been a great job. Like 7 other dwarf actors could have gotten jobs, even though you're like eating up all of the jobs for short people."
I saw that.
Yeah. And at first I was like, "Oh man, Dinklage, you're screwing over like these 7 other dwarf actors." Then I thought about it and I was like, wait a second, this is a Disney live action remake of a classic cartoon. And it's like, thank you for canceling that. Because it would have been terrible. All of them have been so bad.
Like, in a way, yes, but in a way also I can't help but feel for the other dwarf
I know,
actors who
sad
are like,
yeah, I mean, like, even if it's bad, like, you know, you get paid. Although, have you seen, there's this interview with the guy who played Aladdin in the live action remake for Aladdin. And he talks about how, like, I think a lot of the other people in that movie, like, they'd had lots of other roles before. Like, the girl who played Jasmine was one of the new Power
Charlie's
Rangers.
Angels.
Yeah.
Oh,
she was
really?
in Charlie's Angels, the remake or reboot of that too. But
I met her.
And then of course, oh really? You met her?
Yeah.
Wow, tell me about that.
I think I even. It was one of our. No, it was one of our one of our quests. You know, where we do healing and support, and my guildmate at the time, I think my guildmate at the time was the one who healed her, and I did the one of the male actors, and he appreciated the white magic I was casting, but other than that,
sounds kind of wrong.
What?
No, go on.
I'm a white mage. I cast healing magic.
Yeah, tell me how you met her.
They were on a break, and they were like, we want this. So
you're just like, you're on set and you just randomly met her. But did
no,
she say anything?
This was after the
after work.
After work.
Okay. Yeah. Well.
Later on, we didn't know who they were. I only looked at Kirsten Stewart and was like, I know this person somehow, but I don't recognize her. And then later on, the guys,
like, oh my god, I met Kirsten Stewart in one of the Power Rangers.
Yeah, well, yeah. They were like, "Do you know who those people are?" And I was like, "No."
That's hilarious.
Those are Hollywood actors, and we were like, "Oh."
That's great. That reminds me of another friend of mine. I had a story about God, I forget what movie it was, but this is back when I was in New York, and a friend of mine said that she was late to class, and she, I think she had some sort of presentation she had to give, So she decided to wear high heels to look like to be extra cool looking for the presentation.
Yes.
But then she was running late, so she's like crossing the street
no.
and trips on her high heels. Like totally eats shit, and
Yeah.
her papers go everywhere in the middle of the street.
Oh no.
So like she's blocking everyone walking, just like gathering up her papers, and she says like some asshole starts yelling at her, and she gets like really frustrated because she's just trying to clean up her papers, right?
Yeah.
And so she gets, and she's like mad because there's people who are just not really helping her, and just
Hey, I'm walking
and
here.
yeah. And finally she gets everything together, and she's like pretty frustrated and angry, and like tells this guy who's been like bothering her to like mind his own business, and
that guy's name.
she walks off, and then she notices when she gets to the other side of the street, there's like a bunch of barriers, and she looks back and realizes that like she had crossed barriers on the other side too, and she starts looking around, and I guess like the guy who was yelling at her turned out to be some movie director. Like I don't remember if it was someone like really famous, but they were filming a movie like on that street, and she had just like while they're shooting a scene, she had just crossed into the field of the camera, ate shit, and took away everybody's attention.
I hope they got that on camera.
Yeah. Well, I bet like, if the director was like amused and not angry, they probably would have kept it in for bloopers.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I mean, imagine you watch a movie. That's
and you see yourself tripping in the background.
No, and you just see someone in the background doing something really stupid, and they just leave that in.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you get bloopers like that, like the famous Lord of the Rings truck, where
I don't count that as a blooper. That's just careless editing.
It is, but anyway, what I was gonna say is the dude who played Aladdin in the remake, he said that he was really excited because he had never been in a big budget movie before, and he's like, "Oh yeah, the roles are gonna just keep coming after this because everyone's gonna know my name."
Oh no!
And he said that after it, then fans were so disappointed that he said that he actually found it harder to get jobs after it than before.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, so because before he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm like a little-known stage actor and TV actor, and yeah, I could do whatever." And then after it, people are like, "Oh, you were in that crappy Aladdin remake, weren't you? I know your face. I don't want you." So he had trouble.
That's too bad.
So maybe it was better for those dwarves to not be in the crappy Snow White remake.
They if they played their hand, they could have like elevated the movie to something really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you never know.
I guess.
Yeah, it could have been like the Disney live action remake version of what happened with the Sonic movie, where it looked terrible, and then people complain, and they're like, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, the new Sonic movie, everybody loves it apparently. So
yeah, I hear it's good. Can't wait to see it. So what's this guy talking about in the hallway?
Oh, he confronts Hina about her having confessed to Taiki, and she's like, "Yeah, it's just like that.
Yeah,
I told him because that's the fact, and that's it." And he's the one who kind of like, he's always on the sidelines commenting on stuff and noticing stuff that the main characters don't notice. He's one of those characters who could
wagon of this series.
Kind of, he could tell everybody what's up, and
he just doesn't.
And kind of
don't keep it
solve all the problems, but he's just a spectator on the side. And I've suspected this for a while, but I think this panel, unless it's mistranslated, is implying that he's in love with Hina. So it's a new love triangle.
Yeah. Well, maybe that'll be good for the ending if he can go with her instead.
I think this could have, if this was another plot development, I think this could have happened way earlier.
Yeah, well, I guess they forgot about it until now.
Maybe.
So it's this last panel. Oh, Chinatsu moving out.
Yeah, that's the big cliffhanger in quotation marks, because it's not. It's Chinatsu's mother spontaneously returned to Japan, and because the grandpa has an illness or something, and he's getting surgery, and the mother is renting an apartment for like a short while, and Chinatsu senpai is going to live with her mom naturally, as you would do when your mom is back.
Yeah.
Although, did they sell their house? I wonder.
I don't know. I don't keep up with this.
So either way, it's treated as if this is like, a gut punch. Chinatsu senpai is going to be taken away from me, and I can't do anything about it. But like, this is
it's so normal.
It's such a non-issue. Let me check. What do I give this whole
what
chapter?
Grade does this get?
50 points.
50 points. Ooh. All right.
So it's barely on the precipice. It's barely on the precipice of being bad, but...
All right. Well, next up, something rather more exciting than that.
Yes.
Macadamia. And
slightly more exciting.
This is the Dabi backstory chapter.
One of those.
Yeah.
We've already had one before.
Usually I don't like those, but I was down with this one.
Oh really?
Yeah,
I didn't like it at all.
You didn't like it at all? Okay.
No, I dislike Dabi.
I usually don't like him, but I like that they tried to flesh him out a little bit. Although this maybe was a bit too fleshy.
It was it was necessary, and I knew it would come, but also
because there's like a few things in it that I thought like, oh, this doesn't make sense at all. But like, and I think maybe you don't care because it's not as directly connected to the main thing going on here, and I think we're all waiting for Deku to get to. Like,
no, that's not it. I think my main complaint is that they show how All for One and this Dr. Robotnik dude were stitching him back up, grafting new skin on him, and making him look like a normal person again.
Yeah.
And just on a whim, he says, "Nah, I don't want that." And then he bails, and then he returns and looks like shit.
Yeah.
So it's at first it explains, like, you see him burn up and stuff, and you think, oh, so that's why he looks like shit. And then he gets this
he kind of does it to himself twice.
Yeah, it's so weird. I don't feel like this. I don't feel like this makes enough sense. It throws you off. You feel like, oh, so Dabi looks like this because he burned himself, and it's like, no, actually, he would have been okay, but he did it again.
Yeah.
Also, it's showing this
Did you hear that?
Orphanage. No.
Oh, okay. I guess it's not coming through on my mic. There's I guess construction crew is back near where I live, and there's just a really loud bang because.
Not on my side. Maybe in the recording, because Discord is filtering out a lot. Anyway. I was disappointed that we get to see the orphanage where they put all the possible villains that they were grooming.
You didn't like that?
I didn't like that. Like, well, it gets introduced and then Dabi just kills everybody.
He was the failed one of them. The one thing from that part that I thought was nonsense, because I thought that it was like, I guess I agree with you that it breaks the pacing a bit, that he's all burnt up and then they heal him and then he burns himself again. But I thought it was like, it kind of, I felt it was a good explanation of him waking up and then he has another chance and he's like, well, I want to go back to my family. But then he goes back and sees Endeavor like doing the harsh training again to his younger brother. He's like, oh, this shit again. So then he flips out once more and burns his new home. And I think that was because it looked like when he found himself healed, he was like, well, maybe I can go back to living my life. And then he, changes his mind once he does like try to check out what's going on back home. The thing I thought was nonsensical about that part is just the fact that they were like, let's groom this guy to be a new body for All For One, because it's like, well, does All For One really want to inhabit a body that has a power that could damage itself?
Is
Like
is
that
that
doesn't
what they
seem
were
like that
going
would be
for?
what he wants. Oh, that's what I thought. Did he just mean that he's grooming him to be one of the League of Villains? Because
Yeah.
I thought that what they were saying is that he was one of the possible people to be like, the new body for him.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, I guess
That's not how I
I guess
understood it.
we read it differently.
I thought they were grooming them to become, well, villains. Just like
Because I think the line is, we sought out warped seeds to serve as his vessel. Which made me think like, oh, these guys are looking for people to be the new body for All For One. And the fact that like they find him when he's all burned up, it made me think of that line making fun of FromSoft Games, saying that only you, the most fucked up and nasty of guys, can make the world right again. That's what the All For One team was going around like, here's a fucked up and nasty guy. Let's have him be the vessel.
I guess okay. If you focus on the vessel part, maybe.
Yeah.
It could be.
It'll probably not be mentioned again.
Yeah. This whole issue is just supposed to show that Dabi was rejected by both his dad and All For One, and then he came back and All For One was like, I guess you could stick around.
It didn't look like he was rejected by All For One. It looked like All For One's team was like, you can hang with us, and he was like, I want to go back to my family. But he went back to his family. He's like, it's the same shit. They didn't change after they thought I died. So he's like, I'm gonna go team All For One now. It did have what I thought was a really cool visual at the end, though. Did you like that?
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
Yeah, where he's burning so hot, he's melting the All Might statue that he's standing on. That was cool.
Also, his look in his when all of the stuff is burning off of him.
Yeah. He's like,
I'd say that's cool.
Apart. Yeah, he looks very demonic.
I do like it when characters become, let's say, damaged in a way that makes you think, oh, if they're on the brink of death, and this is the final stand they'll take. I like that. It happens a lot in Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Just to bring it back.
As
but
I said,
I like
the most fucked up and nasty of guys here.
And he doesn't have his teeth are exposed. He doesn't have any.
He's getting all hollowed anymore.
Out. That's kind of cool. It's cooler than what he used to be.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, his hair is bright again.
Oh yeah,
and we don't get any explanation why it was black before.
No,
just to throw us off.
Yeah, they dyed it so that no one would recognize him.
Now the heat is
the heat burned off the color. So
I don't think that's how it works. But
this chapter,
60 points.
Okay, I was more generous. I said 7.5. I thought it was pretty cool.
It's way too much.
Yeah. I'm sure the next week we'll have a battle that will be like, this doesn't make sense because it's two guys with fire power fighting each other, but like only one of them can actually
One of them can heal his wounds with ice.
Yeah. So it's like a little bit unfair, isn't it?
Well, one of them has hotter fire.
That's true, yeah. but the other is a dual wielder. Well, we'll find out if it's cool or not. Going on, we get One Piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One Piece.
One Piece.
I
You didn't like
I
it?
didn't like this one.
I liked it except for one thing again.
This one had like these pages that I'm highlighting is I think this is the One Piece equivalent of Shaky Cam.
Oh, really? Well,
I
coming
can't
off of
tell
the
what's
example
going
from
on.
Dororon, this is nuts.
Yeah, but like what's going on in the top panel? How is Luffy getting hit? It's completely.
He's hitting him a lot of times. That's all it is. It's just the
He's hitting him in a way that
really,
makes
really
him
fast.
look like mush. He's. I can't tell where his body parts are connected anymore.
You can't? There's his knee.
Yeah.
There's his arm. There's his head.
But why is his head in that position and his body is like...
He's rubber.
I don't like it. Rubber. Usually the visual language in One Piece is a little bit more clear, and this time it's not. And also the damage that Luffy is doing to Kaido doesn't seem
also
to
becoming rubberized. I feel like Luffy's just he's
playing around.
He's playing around because when he does that, he's like obviously not going to be hurting Kaido as much as he could be.
Yeah. He's not punching through him. He's just punching him in a cartoonish way.
And then next we have something that this is what I was like, what the hell about? Because the title of the chapter is Raizo, and this is what Raizo does: is he has a scroll, and somehow he talks to Zunisha.
No. It's like this.
Okay.
In Wano, they don't know what devil fruit powers are. They just think, oh, it's magic. So previously, they always hinted at Raizo having ninjutsu powers where he could do stuff, and he's always evading the question, like, what can he do as a ninja? And I think this is basically the reveal that he used to have devil fruit powers all along, and that his devil fruit power is basically the same as one of the sons of Big Mom who can summon books, but his one is for summoning scrolls. And the ninja scrolls have the effect of saving anything that you put in them, so you can store anything you want, and then you can summon it back out. And so one time when he was in Zou, he stored up one of the floods that Zunisha is always over him, putting over himself. So that's what it is. He basically does what...
I was thinking, like, is this like the Goblin Slayer scroll?
Yes, it's exactly that.
But it's not actually connected to it. It's just... Because I was like, is he teleporting the water from the elephant here?
No, it's his devil fruit power. He stored it in there.
All right, I understand it now. Because I have been like, I don't get it.
It's a little weird because it doesn't get spelled out that this is a devil fruit power, and because otherwise nobody would be able to do this in the
of course.
Laws of One Piece. And it's already weird enough that that Jinbei can waterbend. Yes, that's exactly that. He can waterbend, like as if it was nothing. But other than that, him being a fishman, nobody else should have this much control over water unless it's a weird devil fruit power like this one, and it doesn't get explained. You just have to know that this is something that has already happened with a different devil fruit power, and like that it would come in handy in this situation.
Okay, well, thank you for explaining it. That makes things make more sense.
And it eliminates the
gets rid of all
stage hazard that has been going on for months. I'm glad that it's gone now because it was really annoying.
Yeah, well, although I was going to point out one thing that happened before this that I thought was kind of cool with Luffy and Kaido talking to each other is one thing that I thought was like a difference between the two of them in terms of their personality. That Kaido points out to Luffy that he should worry about his own guys below, because Kaido's like, oh, well, you've destroyed so much of my stuff, but so many of your followers are here on the floating island with me, and they're gonna burn to death if you don't do something about it. And then Luffy is just like, well, I trust that the guys I left
He
in charge
says, I left
there.
everybody in charge
Yeah,
down
yeah.
there.
So he trusts his crew to like take care of it. So he's like, I'm just gonna not think about anything except fighting you.
I think that's mainly because Kaido is the most capable person in his crew, and Luffy is the least capable person in his crew.
Yeah. That's a good way to think about it.
So Kaido is like, it's
it's
gonna be shit if I leave everybody in charge. But Luffy is
this
like,
the two polar opposites of leadership style. Is one, if you have the leader who is so much smarter than everyone else around him that he's like he doesn't trust his underlings enough. And then the other one is so much dumber than everyone around him that he has no choice but to trust everyone else because he wouldn't be able to figure it out.
Very well summarized. But also, Kaido recruits his guys by through
force.
fear.
Yeah,
by force and through fear. So it's only natural that he might distrust his own guys because a lot of them are just there to eventually backstab him.
Right, they're there because they're afraid of him, not because they actually.
And he knows that. Like only a few of them are trusted members. Like King was probably the only guy he would have trusted.
And he's the only guy 100%. We got a flashback page for with him.
Yeah. A few, not just one.
Wow.
The final thing that happens in this chapter is that Luffy is just grabbing a lightning
which
flash.
Is silly. That because like I remember on Sky Island he was like, oh, because I'm rubber I'm resistant to lightning, but I don't think it makes you able to grab it. Unless it's like he's using his powers on it, so it's rubberized. It's cartoon lightning now. It's cartoon lightning, so you can grab it. Yeah, that's how it.
Which also means if that remains a thing, that means that Nami now becomes the most valuable.
Oh shit, you're right. Because she can
support unit.
Yeah, she can create the lightning clouds, and Luffy just has infinite. What do you call it? The miracle attack.
Oh yeah, lightning spear.
Yeah, lightning spear. He just did infinite lightning spears. I want to focus on like this is the scariest I think we've seen Luffy look when he's like backlit and in a different form. I thought that was cool because that's like we rarely see him looking scary, you know.
Even when he's really it's happened a few times before. He was scary a few times before, like on Thriller Bark when he what happened to him again? He did get some zombie powers, right? When I forgot how that went.
Because
didn't he get beefed up by shadows or something?
Yeah, I think
it's so long ago. It's over 10 years.
I have to reread it at some time.
But he got a slightly scary form back then.
Yeah,
but and also his gear for the Bound Man that also had a slightly scary
look. Yeah, but this is like just the backlighting and the smile. He looks kind of evil there. If you take him out of there and be like, this is the boss that you have to fight in something.
If you put somebody else in front of him, he would
if it's
be
not
the
Kaido.
villain.
If this is the perspective of everyone else, it looks like Luffy's the bad guy. But then I like that at the bottom it shows they're both like really happy. They're still enjoying their fight.
Yeah.
I think
it's nice cool. when the villain is also really happy about fighting.
Yeah. So you said you didn't really like this one? I really like this chapter.
Too much chaos was happening in between when everybody was reacting to the fire and trying to deal with it or running away from it, and a lot of people failing to do so. I think it was just a little bit too much this time, and it was hard to keep track of what's happening, or rather it was just showing the impact of the stage hazard, but almost in that sequence where you see everybody doing reacting to the fire. I think not enough happened with the fire. Not enough progress was happening.
Well, you mean it was just I felt like that was one of those things that's basically just, or I guess not just, but primarily to remind us where everyone is and who is
Yes.
with everybody. Because we see like, okay, Zoro's being carried around by Frankie, and then Chopper. I actually forget who Chopper's with. Nami, is it? And
Yeah,
then
he's
Usopp is with his new minions, and and they want him to save them because he's the Lord Usopp.
I
And then
suppose this
it's
kind
just
of
that
chapter
everyone's
is
scared of the fire,
necessary.
and yeah, so it's to show they got rid of the fire. Two, here's where everyone still is.
But at the same time, I don't have to like it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I know it's necessary, and I know it's good to remind most people where everybody is, because we have 11 parties in the mix, and
it's so
somewhere around 50 characters probably, and you gotta remind everybody. But at the same time, sometimes
you don't find it
just
as
gets
enjoyable.
It gets it's probably the representation of things getting too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I can understand a lot of people not keeping track of everything. And that's why these chapters become necessary, and that's why it's not as enjoyable of a chapter as you might think.
Okay. All right. So what did you give it?
69.
69. Nice. I liked it more. I would say 8 out of 10. I thought the Kaido versus Luffy stuff is just really cool. I think a few weeks ago I was saying I'm not into the Kaido versus Luffy stuff, and I've completely flipped on it. I'm like, oh yeah, it's really good.
It would be good if it was just from beginning to end just Luffy versus Kaido. We get too many distractions, and we don't see Luffy getting any good hits in.
Yeah.
Most of his hit.
Yeah,
most of his
it is a bit like it's
look like he's
dragging
not
out
doing
a bit
anything.
too much, and it's his own fault because of applying his power to Kaido as well.
He leveled up. He got a new moveset, and right now
he gave Kaido some of it. He's like, here, you can have part of my level.
He made it to the finale of Evo, and he just started using a new character. And in the middle of the finale, he's testing out his moveset.
Yeah.
Like, what happens if I do quarter circle forward B?
That's exactly
and
what it is.
That's what it is, and that's why I kind of want it a little bit different. I won't clap every time Luffy is on screen. I want him to do something more.
Yeah. Like poking him with a stick still. Do something more. Moving on, speaking of fighting, we got Sakamoto Days.
Did you read that?
I did read it, and so the title of this chapter is Lag, and for most of the chapter I'm like, why is it called Lag? And then the end of the chapter I'm like, I hate that it's called Lag because of this. I like the rest of it except for the end.
The end is taking all of the steam out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the most part of the chapter is
Axe Gun Girl was really good.
Yeah, that's the main meat of the chapter.
Yeah,
Shin fighting against this Sakamoto otaku girl, and him using his powers to defeat her in a somewhat creative way. You usually don't see.
Very nice way. And then it shows that he's a good guy, even though he's trying to become an assassin.
He's learning from Sakamoto.
Yeah, it's better if your assassins are good people than if they're 100% heartless killers, right?
Sakamoto is that way because he married, and his mother, not his mother, his wife told him to never kill anybody.
Hopefully,
and that's the main crux of the whole series.
It's kind of like the dude from Jigoku Raku. He was going to be a heartless killer until he got married, and his wife is like, you don't have to be a heartless killer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like this little cutaway panel to the two guys who are watching the fight.
Yeah. One of them gets explained as a very shy person, so he doesn't know how to get into all
This
of the
is more
action.
like
So
on the spectrum than shy.
yes,
He's like, oh, what should I do? Should I help him? Should I say something? I'll just rub this guy's back.
and unfortunately for him,
It is
this
not the
guy
wrong
is
move.
it's
You got
the
to reload
wrong guy
and
to rub
choose
the
the
back.
other dialogue option.
Yeah, that was funny. That was
I
a
liked it, yeah.
nice bit.
A little bit of characterization
Sakamoto is
of the two of them.
yeah, Sakamoto is getting into the habit of introducing characters with weird personalities and quirks and mixing them up with each
Mhm.
other.
Yeah,
Previously, we didn't
I
have
always think that
a good
that's a
set.
good move in manga or one of the skills for a manga author. It's not just drawing well and getting cool powers for characters, but it's also knowing which characters' weird personality traits will be funny when put next to each other. And this is a good one. Yeah.
We can appreciate the background art for this.
Oh yeah, it's really pretty.
That's very elaborate
the
for
forest and the water. It's all shaded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
great.
we might have to look at it for a few more seconds just to
like it.
not let the work of the assistants go to waste.
Yeah. And it was funny because I think the page previous to this, I was like, why the heck is he thinking about fish all of a sudden? And then we get to this and it reveals like, oh, it's because he realized that they were close, or because he's or would you say clairvoyant or psychic? Whichever one. Or telepathic.
Neither. Clairvoyant would be if he can read the future. And well, he's psychic, so he can read the minds of people, but we didn't know that this also extends to animals.
He can also hear animals, so that he can read the minds of the fish, and he can tell that there's a lot of fish nearby, so he knows they're near water, so he drops her off a waterfall into a river.
He was also reading the minds of the fish who thought, oh, we can't go upstream, there's a waterfall here. So that's the main thing. But dropping the girl off the waterfall was essentially useless because she would have gotten beaten anyway.
Oh, really? How do you figure?
Well, the other guy is coming in for the kill steal.
Oh yeah. But he wouldn't have known that. So I mean,
no, of course not. But it kind of devalues the whole struggle before.
No, because I think beating her in this way is also the way to. It's not the sort of defeat where you're like, oh, I've defeated this person, now I can move on. It's the sort of defeat where it's like, I defeated them, so now they'll join my party. Because hopefully after this, she gets stuck in the bottom of the river because her Sakamoto keychain strap gets trapped beneath some rocks, and she almost drowns trying to get it out, so Shin has to dive in and help her. And then she's like, oh, you did that just like Sakamoto would have done. So I'll let you be the number one Sakamoto.
That part is satisfying.
Yeah, I like that.
She gets smashed into a wall so hard that she almost she's almost Yamcha.
That sucked. I hated the because not only she gets smashed into the wall like that, but they reveal that this guy's power is that
he's remote controlled.
He's being remote controlled by someone else, and somehow that makes him super strong.
Yeah, because the guy who's remote controlling him is super strong. I guess.
Yeah,
it sucks. It's annoying.
And then the VR guy says, "Oh, there's a bit of lag. I guess I'll have to pretend I'm playing Resident Evil." And I was like, "Oh, you should have made a reference to like one of those fighting games that has really bad lag online."
He wouldn't be able to do that because in Japan those fighting games don't have lag.
Oh right, yeah. Internet
that's the main thing why people are so annoyed internationally with fighting games, because they all use the thing that makes the fighting games really fast if you have the Japanese internet. Yeah, but if you're anywhere else in the world, it becomes slow, and that's why. Well, I don't expect Sakamoto's author to know
Yeah,
that.
you're right. They wouldn't know that. So what did you give this one?
70.
Exactly the same for me. I liked
Nice.
the main battle, but just I hate the VR ending thing. That was really dumb.
If that hadn't been in there, it might have been even higher.
Yeah, otherwise a great chapter, and with really wonderful background drawings.
Yeah.
And a funny autistic man.
So Sakamoto is getting better and better, I would say.
Moving on up. All right, next we got
Roboco.
It's a Roboco.
I didn't like this chapter.
Roboco. I like the first page where they're all happy at the picnic. That was well done.
Yes, but the rest is.
So my note for this chapter is that I didn't like it because I didn't really laugh at it.
Yeah, there were no real laughs.
There's lots of Roboco chapters that are like this, where they're like, "Oh, we'll do something that's kind of fun," but then it's just none of the jokes hit. So.
I think it didn't use the premise well enough. So the main thing in this chapter is that the whole crew of kids is out for cherry blossom viewing.
Yeah, they're enjoying the springtime.
And
cherry blossom.
They're somewhere completely in the wilderness, it seems, because there's no other people around.
It's just them and the trees. It's very
usually in chapters where the characters go cherry blossom viewing.
Yeah, they have to like fight for a seat for their picnic.
Yeah. And then you sometimes meet a rivaling group of people who have already got a good spot, and then they might fight over the spots, and then they become friends over that, and that kind of thing is what usually happens in those kind of chapters, right? And instead of that, they try to do it completely wholesome, but take a really weird detour by pretending that it's a huge deal what kind of food you bring. They waste so many pages
was
with
like
that.
2 different storylines smashed into one. One is the, oh no, what did you bring to eat? And the second is, let's have a talent show for fun.
Yes.
And I think that sometimes I complain about jokes going on for too long. I think the opposite here is that it had 2 ideas and didn't flesh either of them out very well.
Yes. Both of them, because the food competition that went nowhere, because the only people who really competed in it were Matsuo Gorilla and Roboco.
Didn't they all bring yakisoba?
Yes.
Yeah, in the end, they all had the same thing.
Is that like, they make such a huge deal out of it being good picnic food, but then they all bring something that I wouldn't consider good picnic food.
Exactly.
Because they make a point that salad is difficult because you can't
you have to portion
separate
it out.
Yeah,
yakisoba is the same. You got to portion it out.
And the only reason why what's his name, Mind Reader dude, is why he made a mistake is that he picked the wrong KFC.
Yeah, he didn't get the crispy one. Oh, I was surprised that they actually said KFC. They didn't have like a KFP or something.
That's true. Maybe they did. In this panel that you are showing right now is the only actual laugh that.
Oh yeah. Where Roboco is searching for the perfect place to sit.
Also, we have again to appreciate the background.
Yeah. Is Shin fighting behind her there? Yes. Dense in the jungle.
It's a completely unrelated thing, and it's just for one panel, but the jungle
it looks nothing like where they are. It actually looks kind of like where I live.
Oh really?
Yeah, there's like a really dense, almost rainforesty area near where I live.
Wow, I love it. I have to come visit.
You get to see all the lines.
Let's see. I didn't even point at the screen when I saw the referee.
Oh, I was like, I vaguely remember this guy.
He's the Hunter x Hunter referee.
Oh, but he was like here for one page and then he vanishes.
Yeah.
It's one
He
of those
just-
references where it's as like I said earlier, it's just the jokes in this were undercooked.
Yeah. And also it's been only a few chapters since this guy showed up last time.
Mm-hmm.
You can pull him out, and I will point at the screen, but you can't do it like
Not all the time.
You can't do it all the time.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's getting old. You have to save him for good parts.
Yeah. And here you've got a gorilla. They for some reason decide they're gonna do a talent show. Gorilla pulls out the taiko drum solo in traditional garb for it, I guess.
I like that. What's her name? Akane.
Mm-hmm. She loves it.
I like that she was the one who's really into
Yeah.
it, into seeing him half naked.
Yeah. He's got the
It was a
what
nice
do they call
touch.
it? The gorilla.
Fundashi.
He's got the I was gonna say the peak male performance body
Oh, yes.
from the meme. You may not like it. This is what peak male performance looks like.
She likes it.
Yeah, she loves
She's
it.
loving it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm actually reminded, speaking of that, I saw this video of Thor Bjornsson, who's the guy who played the Mountain on Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he's been getting into boxing. And there's like this video where he's like going to train with this guy who's like a world championship level heavyweight boxer.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking to this guy. And this guy's like also like a giant. But then they're getting shirtless to work out, and it's funny because the other guy like kind of looks like gorilla in terms of his body being a bit lumpy.
Oh no!
And
how unfortunate.
And they're talking about training for boxing, and because the guy who played the Mountain, he's like, "Oh, I've been training for boxing, but I watch you, and you could like fight for 30 rounds without getting tired. And if I fight for 6 rounds, I'm totally worn out. How do you do it?" And the other guy's like, he's like, well, because he asked like, oh, do you have like a special diet or anything? Because for like bodybuilding, they all have special diets. And then the pro boxer guy, who's like, he's obviously like really fit, but just doesn't really look it. He's like, well, it's just because I've been training since I was a kid, but I don't pay attention to my diet. Like I ate KFC for breakfast and Burger King for lunch.
Oh, he's like, living the dream.
He was like, yeah, I can perform in the ring, but obviously the diet does matter because you've got abs and I don't. I was like, that's really funny. There's some guy who's a pro boxer, and just you'd look at him and you'd be like, oh, that guy's really tall, but you wouldn't think he's like an elite athlete if you don't actually watch him in action.
But he's getting the best from both worlds.
Yeah,
he's getting the achievements, and he gets to eat all of the Kentucky Fried Chicken and Burger King that he wants.
Yeah, but I'm sure
it may not be aesthetically pleasing, but he's getting the result.
He got the result
while eating burgers.
Yeah, it was very much the you may not like it, but this is what peak performance looks like.
Yeah.
Although it does make me wonder sometimes, like seeing guys like that, like, oh, imagine if they did like eat properly like the other athletes. Would that make them better?
He would awaken and
he'd like seek power.
The last thing that I was going to show in this chapter was just another of those montages that don't hit, which is something I always criticize on Roboco.
Yeah, I think okay, we'll talk about it later, but I feel like those kind of montages that you complain about in Roboco, it's happening so much in Akane-banashi.
Exactly.
They're like, just flesh out the jokes. Come on, I want to see the full thing. It would be so much better.
This one is, I titled this panel "Tell Don't Show Mistake."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's exactly what's Akane Akane-banashi is doing.
Yeah, it just says Roboco's act was well received. It's like, oh, sure, by them, but we didn't get to see all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I gave it 4.5 because I just didn't think it was that funny.
I was a little bit
really
lenient towards
cover
it
page.
and said 55.
Yeah, still not excellent.
But I was very tempted to give it less points.
Yeah. Moving on, we got Witch Watch. Another cosplay cover page. And is this a reference that you understand?
No.
I was looking at this, I'm like, it makes me think of those like 80s book covers. Just because of the way they frame it, and then with the white on the outside, the title, and then the sort of curved rectangle framing the characters. It's got that style, but I don't know if it's like a specific reference to something.
The thing is, this might be a redo of the previous color pages where we noted that they are all wearing
cosplay that would make sense to their familiar type, but it doesn't in this one.
In this one, yes, exactly, because last time he wasn't wearing that.
Yeah, this time he is.
But everybody else isn't.
Everyone else isn't. I don't get it. Whatever.
Also, in this color page shows Kanshi wearing this red eyeliner. And they even
they mention it in the story.
They mention it in the story, and I've been wondering, has he been wearing this all this time? And I just didn't realize it, because I mean, I could go back and look at one of the others. Let me check.
I'm sure he has.
I'm not sure if he actually did. Let me see.
Maybe I should rewind and find out if there's been attention to detail.
I mean, I'm into it. I like the look of it.
I think that probably. I'm also gonna say, is that actually supposed to be eyeliner, or is it supposed to be the manifestation of his Tengu origin?
I think that's eyeliner. Okay. But it's Tengu flavored, so I don't have it, I think.
Oh well. Anyway, so this one, it's about Kanshi is working part-time at a cafe, and he hates it there. So he asks Nico to cast a spell on him to enjoy it. But being Nico, she casts a spell that reverses his opinions on everything, which seems a bit overblown.
Yeah, that was a very dangerous.
Yeah, but it turns out to kind of help him a little bit. Yeah, the thing he hates most is his Tsun co-worker who's always mean to him.
But she's actually in love with him.
She actually really likes him. She just doesn't know how to express herself.
It's kind of weird that he didn't see this before, because she's a very attractive woman. And at the very least, he should have felt conflicted about a pretty woman being mean to him.
Yeah.
And instead,
he was just scared of her.
Yeah, and also from the reaction he's giving when she scolds him and insults him.
And this is the reverse. It means that he must have
if
really
this is
hated
the reverse, yes, he must have hated it so much. So for him to turn into a masochist when she's insulting him, he must have if he hadn't the reverse sense spell on him, he would have cried.
Yeah, he's a very sensitive soul. You gotta be gentle with his heart.
Every time she appeared, it was like, but he's so hot. That I really like that.
Yeah, her little asides.
The rough guests show up.
Yeah, and he saves the cafe. And I thought that this is that's not just him getting the opposite impression from them. It's him like having a weird reaction that doesn't seem like him,
Is
right?
is the implication that if he hadn't been under the spell, he would have fought
Yeah,
them
he
with
would have fought
violence?
them. Yeah, definitely he would have fought them if he
But now
wasn't
he
under the spell.
destroys them with
With
facts and logic.
Yeah, just like a YouTube debater. Maybe that's what he should do next.
Yeah, but yeah, that
Oops.
it felt even it felt out of place even when you consider that he was under the
Yes,
spell.
I also thought it was out of place. I feel like often it's funny when it's Nico's spell has unintended consequences, but with this one, it's like she should know how badly it's gonna go, or how weirdly it's
Yeah,
gonna go from the beginning. Um, and then in the end, it ends up not helping because they're like, "Thanks, Kanshi, you really saved the cafe," and he's like, "Oh, this is how you treat me? I quit." Because
I
he gets
hope
the
he
opposite
doesn't quit,
impression.
but I mean,
I
you
get the
see that
idea.
Nico and
Uh-huh.
Moi come to the rescue, and it's
Kinda. It's
about to
old-fashioned.
get resolved, but
Yeah.
maybe in order to keep things interesting, this is supposed to
Because
be the
the
end of
title
this
was
side adventure.
Kanshi's part-time job diaries, the cafe, which
Yeah,
implies that there's
so
going to be multiple of this one, and it'll
exactly,
always be at a different place.
exactly.
It will be
The
funny
one
if it
chapter
always
that
has the same coworker girl, though.
oh no. The one thing no wait, the chapter where he already had a different part-time job was the one that we liked the most with
Mhm.
the time fast thing.
Yes, that was hilarious.
So this might be a series of
Mhm.
side
But
adventures.
unfortunately, thus far it's a hit or miss
Yeah.
subplot.
It could have
Yeah,
been
could have been better.
better, but also this is probably the best you could do with
Hmm.
with one of those opposite day kind of
Hmm.
deals.
Yeah. So what'd you give this one?
73.
Oh, okay, I said 6.5. It's kind of funny, but kind of nonsense as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It did have some good shots of
yeah, it did.
Kanshi not only looking cool but also
Looking
uh
like a masochist.
yeah,
That was funny too.
and it had a pretty woman, so that's
Always
good.
bonus points for that. Shallow, but it's a fact.
Wow.
Anyway,
Yeah.
going on.
What can I say?
Speaking of funny faces, time for Akane-banashi,
Akane-banashi
which
was
did not have enough funny faces for me.
I would say it was okay.
I was not pleased with this chapter.
I only gave it 62 points, but I have to admit that the mangaka is doing a good job, especially on
Mhm.
these 2 pages, where he it it's always switching from Akane to
Uh-huh.
the audience, and
Yeah.
it's always zooming in a little bit more. And that's a good trick to show this
Focus.
quick succession and also how it gets faster and faster by zooming in on from first you see a little bit of her body and then it goes closer and closer
Hmm.
until you get a
You only
really
see her
close up
mouth.
of her mouth.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I would say that's good manga
Hmm.
craft, but it's not doing what we want by
No, which because
uh,
I would say what I wanted because I feel like this sort of shot, um, I would want to have this after a page that is purely her performance because the previous page to this we didn't get purely her performance. We got a little
yeah.
overview of the story, the story that she's gonna do. Um,
It doesn't
and
give give
one thing I
the
do
conclusion of
like
the
about
story.
those little overviews is that it gives like the what do you call it? The Yukio, the art style, the
I
older
forgot
art
his name.
style. But it gives the old timey art style drawings of the main
Oh yeah.
characters of the Rakugo. And I like that because then I'm like, oh, I feel like the artist of this is really good at drawing characters doing different facial expressions
Yes.
to express acting, and I wish that he did it more because I feel like for this scene, because the reason I wanted another page before this to have that's only focused on her is so that we could see um, kind of a shot reverse shot, but it's just her like switching her facial expressions.
Oh yeah, that
Almost
would
because
have been
imagine
so
like a
good.
Gollum style thing, flipping between
Yes.
to show like this is how much she's able to change her facial expressions for each character. Because if you notice in here, they do have it so that her talk bubble has a different outline for which character she's doing.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's cool. But every time she switches character, it also changes the camera to face outside from her. So you're not seeing her changing her facial expression. So I'm like, I feel like they needed a page to do that. Um, and then in the same way, then they reference the other Rakugo teenager. And it just reminded me about how in the chapter they introduce him, also, they only really show like one page of him performing. And I'm like, there needed to be more. Or maybe they're not needed, but like, I wanted there to be more to get like a better idea of
Same.
the
Yeah.
performance itself. So
I
I get
also
what you're
wanted that.
saying, that this is like a good way to like show her building up rapport with the audience. But yeah, I just for something that's based on a performing art, I wish for it to have more focus on that. Another contrast, we haven't talked about it yet, but I read Goodbye Eri
Yes.
immediately before reading this.
Yeah, made a beeline for
And
that one.
in that, then for the movies, it shows so much that it's just the movie before it like zooms out and shows the audience and then the reactions. Then I'm like, oh, so then when I was reading this chapter, I was like, oh, I wish I saw more of just her performance. For the whole time, I
Yeah,
was like, I
exactly.
want, because I really like the way that he draws the actors doing the Rakugo. I think it's great, but
He's
there's
not
not
doing it
enough of
enough.
it. Yeah.
The thing in Goodbye Area is
Mhm.
that it strictly follows the same panel layout on almost
Yes.
all of the
Yeah.
pages, and that a lot of the panels are copy pasted from each other with just the characters moving a little bit.
Yeah,
So you could
which
do
also
that.
makes it feel, because one thing we'll talk about it later. Actually,
Yeah.
let's focus on Akane-banashi now.
But in Akane-banashi, you could do that
Yeah, yeah,
and have
yeah. You
her.
could do that with just her, because this page and every panel is the same size. It's just flipping perspective. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think in Akane-banashi, that kind of sequential art would really work well because
Yeah.
then you could see her movements a little bit better. It would give
Mhm.
you more of a cinematic feel
I
for what's
agree.
happening.
Yeah.
You only need to do that once just to show us how the Rakugo would look if you just keep the camera rolling from the
Yes,
same angle.
I think every one of the major Rakugo characters needs to have a chapter where it's just primarily their performance.
Yeah. And
Because
we don't get that.
yeah, because so far it's like we've seen Akane, her dad, the two main teacher guys, her
And the
senpai, and then the
senpai,
other teenage Rakugo guy,
yeah, the
and
sexy
then
guy.
yeah, the the guy who flips from sexy to derpy. None of them have had like enough uh, shots of just them performing.
Yeah.
Just not enough. Another thing I would say about this chapter is that they really just pile on the metaphors a lot. Like
It was very on the nose.
yeah, like they talk about, oh, here's the story Akane is performing, and oh yeah, she made mistakes previously, just like one of the characters in it, and then it's like, oh, and also here's the metaphor again about how working at a pub is kind of like being a performer. What else did they say? Oh yeah, and then they're like, it's like playing baseball. Like, oh man, just stick to one at a time. Just
Well,
rapid
it's because
firing these metaphors at us.
they already made the metaphor of how her performance was too fast for the audience, even though it was very impressive.
Yeah.
It didn't do what it was supposed to do, and that's why they had to bring that up one more time.
Yeah.
Because they already made the metaphor and they have to stick to it,
Mhm.
just to stick with the language they had already established.
Yeah. Then we get a
Um,
flashback to when she was a kid. Then
Yeah.
she's remembering some advice that her teacher gave
I think
her.
this is a good lesson,
It is,
right?
yeah.
You have to, in order to become a good performer, you need to get experiences and
Yeah.
learn stuff. You can't just always sit at home and
Exactly.
do nothing. You have to interact with people, and you have to get annoyed by people, and then you can use those annoyances into other stuff. Although,
Yeah.
I personally would say a lot of the hardships I faced, I could do without them, because I could just imagine them perfectly in my head already.
Well, I think
a lot of times
it
when
probably
something
differs
bad
based on
happened.
how good your imagination is. Because remember that we talked about that scale of being able to imagine images, and some people are just garbage at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some people can imagine very, very clearly.
Yeah. I could a lot of the bad times that have happened, I could have imagined perfectly already and be like, "Oh, okay, that's what would have happened if I did that."
Yeah, and
Well.
I thought it was just funny because basically the gist of what he says is that though a way of life may be lost, the words still remain.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. I did think of that. I forgot to note it down, but you're completely right, yeah.
Yeah.
This panel where she realizes how much fun Rakugo is, I think the series could just end on this one.
Yeah, it could be a good ending.
I don't
like,
have
okay.
a lot of confidence
She's
in the
gonna cry.
series continuing particularly long,
Yeah,
but like
this is
it
one
ended on
problem
this
with
one.
this is that I think every time we, not just for this, but for other series that we have issues with, I feel like every time we have criticisms, but our criticisms are usually not the sort of thing where it's like, oh, I can see this changing for the better in the future. It's usually, I wish they did this differently in the past. It can't be helped.
Can't be helped.
Yeah.
At least the cliffhanger on this one is really good, because
Yeah,
it's
he's gonna show up. Come on, Connie.
it's
Show
hinting
us what
at
you
us
got.
finally getting a full performance.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be so angry if they don't
I
make
know,
good
me
on that
too.
promise.
If they just have like a montage and then cut it off.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, Connie's act was surprisingly well received. I won't like that. So what'd you give this one?
This one gets 62 points from me.
Okay, that's more generous than me. I said 5 out of 10, but probably just because my expectations had been raised so much by reading Goodbye Eri.
Yeah.
Going on, next we have something that I don't think either of us had any expectations for at all now.
I had zero
Earthchild.
expectations, and
I had
they
low
still made it
expectations.
worse.
Yes, exactly. I had low expectations, and I was still disappointed.
Yeah, this is one of the worst things I've read ever.
Yeah. I read this, and my comment on it was, it feels like the writer is flailing around without knowing what to do next.
Yeah.
And they just need to end it. Just do something different.
It's so bad.
Already. Yeah.
It's so incredibly bad that.
So
Well, let's
first off,
yes,
the
let's
main guy
summarize what's happening.
Yeah, so last time he met the former Earthchild, and we were like, what the hell does that mean? I thought that was just like, I thought being an Earthchild is just what you are. Then we get this dumb explanation of how, oh, actually, every Earthchild will go through some crisis, and that's what their life was meant for. And if they survive that crisis, then their power fades. And this guy's like, see, My power can only extend to this room, and outside of this room, I can barely even lift a bug.
Because he's used up all of his powers
He used up all
already.
his powers, and he doesn't even say what his crisis was.
Yeah,
Like the mom's
conveniently.
crisis was saving the world from an asteroid. It doesn't say what his was. And then that whole thing made me think like, oh, this like so contradicts what we read just last week, because you remember this guy's introduction where he walks in and says, "Hi, it's me, the main character of the world." It's
Yeah,
like, wait a second. And then now, minutes later in their time, you're telling me, oh,
but
actually,
he's
I'm
not
not the
the
main
main
character because
character.
my story arc ended years ago, and your
Yep,
wife's story arc became the main plot. So I actually haven't been the main character for years.
yep.
It's
He's
like, oh,
inconsistent.
yeah, it's so inconsistent. And he comes up with this idiotic plan where he just flat up says like, oh yeah, well, HQ is not going to spend the money to go rescue her, which is like, why not? Why wouldn't they? That's stupid that they wouldn't.
They don't have. That's
They
the
don't say
funny
why.
thing.
They just say HQ isn't
How
going to do it.
so the implication of an HQ outside of the Japan branch
Hmm.
existing means that they have other things to do,
Yeah, other
uh,
than
other than just directly cooperating with the Earthchild, because
mhm.
the Earthchild in this time is Japanese, so you'd have
Yeah,
to constantly work with the Earthchild as
exactly. Like that's their purpose, right?
so
But
if the
obviously they've got
Japan
some other
branch is
thing.
yeah, what is the
Yeah,
headquarters doing if the
I don't
Japan
know.
branch
They
is
don't tell
working with
us.
the Earthchild? And why does the headquarters have more jurisdiction, more money than
Hmm.
the branch that directly works with the Earthchild? And why
Hmm.
wouldn't they
And why?
spend
Yeah,
money
why wouldn't they do it?
on an Earthchild?
Yeah, it's so dumb. They're just like, no, we
Why
can't
is
do
it
it.
limited like that when they have
It's
technology that
it's a
can
complete, because
age
the thing is
somebody
like
up
this is the
10
sort of
years?
thing. This is the sort of thing where, uh, if they had thought of this storyline before,
Mm,
because this also would have solved the thing we said that it's so stupid that they make the dad come to the base instead of just sending him a picture. If they had to like, oh, this is set in the 1980s, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, then I can believe it that they wouldn't have
yeah,
the technology to be able to send someone to space really quickly. But
but
like
it's in the
here,
near
it's
future.
like it's set in the near future. They have the technology to be tracking the wife in space well enough so that they can say like, oh, she hasn't been destroyed by space debris yet, right? So they know exactly
Yeah,
where she is in orbit. And they're just like, oh, it's just a matter of we don't have money to send a rocket. Why don't we have the money to send a rocket? Oh, just HQ isn't willing to spend the money. What's HQ
it's
spending the money on? Oh, we're not going to talk about it.
it's not even that expensive to send a rocket up,
I know,
is it?
yeah. And I don't know how much it is, but it's like you read about how many like regular companies hire rockets to go into space.
Also,
It's
also, if an Earthchild is as valuable as like the whole world, if the Earthchild can save the world,
yeah.
right?
They've also
How
not explained
isn't that
yet
worth
why it has
all
to
the
be a
money in the
secret.
world?
Yeah. Just be like, hey, by the way, we didn't tell anyone else, but there was an asteroid. Oh yeah. And that's another stupid thing is that they say it's all a secret, but an asteroid coming to destroy the world, every single space agency in the world would have noticed it. And then to be like, oh, somehow the asteroid was deflected. We don't know how. And you'd think that,
People with a telescope at home
yeah,
could have
people would have
watched it
people
happen.
would have figured it out exactly. So you're telling me that they went around and erased the memories of everyone at NASA and whatever they call the space agencies in other
Yeah,
countries? Like
probably.
they all got their minds erased. That's what they spent their money on. They spent their money going around, flying around the world, erasing people's memories instead of just getting a rocket ship to go rescue the Earthchild who saved the world. This is the stupidest secret organization ever. It's
Aptly named Waste.
very
Literal
when
garbage.
we first read that they're named Waste, we're like, that's such a bad name for like a secret organization that saves the world.
Oh,
And now we're
very
like, oh, actually it's very appropriate because they're a total waste of a secret organization that saves the world. They fumble it. They've completely fumbled it. It's so dumb. So the former main character of the world comes up with a plan to send the dad and the son into space, and they're
just
like,
float up
okay,
there.
you'll just float up with the psychic powers.
I mean, technically you could. You can do that. You can if you don't do it quick enough. That's the main problem of space travel. You can just, if you were able to do it slowly, you could just float up. There's no wall that's blocking you. Because you can use a very, like, a super balloon to go into
people
orbit,
have done
right?
that. Yeah.
And if you could just float up there, that would be good. But the rest of the plan is so stupid.
So dumb. You're gonna go take a break at the International Space Station, right? We don't have the budget to get a rocket, but we have the connections to get you a pass onto the International Space Station and just take a break. And then you'll go and get the mom. And they're like, okay, and then they're like, oh, but the son doesn't have enough control. He's not accurate enough to do good. Because previously they said, oh, well, the wife said, oh, it took me 10 years to unlock my full potential. And they retcon it right here. They're like, oh, by the way, actually, she doesn't remember anything before she was 10.
No, wait. I think it's because when she was 10, her powers awoke, right? And then it took another 10 years until she was fully capable of doing it.
Oh, that's even stupider. That makes it even worse. Because
Oh no!
That makes it so dumb. That means this plan is completely.
Do you know what that means? That would mean that they knew she was the Earthchild before she turned into the Earthchild, which they said they didn't know.
Yeah,
they don't know how that works.
Know. But now they're like, they know.
Oh no! It's even worse than I thought.
So dumb. They reveal that that over centuries of research, Waste found out a way to accelerate the growth of Earth children, even though previously they said that they don't know when someone's going to inherit these psychic powers.
Yes.
Now they're like, oh, actually we find them out when they're babies, and then we accelerate their growth. And you've never played Halo, have you?
No.
Okay, so one of the things in the backstory to that is that all the main characters, the Spartans, then they get put through a bunch of like genetic modifications, including accelerated growth. And that it really messes them up because it means that none of them had a childhood, because they accelerated their growth to be like the equivalent of a teenager when they're like really little, so they can just immediately start military training. So then all of them they have no childhood, and all they know is training and fighting, and their lives kind of suck. And I'm like, is that what they're
okay in a world that's already with intergalactic space travel and stuff?
Yeah. Well, even in that, they present it as something bad because they say like, not only that, but also then the secret government organization in Halo that did that, they used like some sort of like genetic test on people to find out who is I guess compatible with the treatments they're gonna do. And then they went so they go around the galaxy and they kidnap these kids and fake their deaths, and they're like, sorry, your kid died, but really they kidnapped them to do testing on them to turn them into super soldiers. So I think in that, like, the Spartans, none of them have surnames because they erased their real identities. So they'll have like a first name and then a number. So that
John Halo.
Yeah, like John Halo.
That's not his real name, is it?
No, his name is John 117. So it's close.
Ah.
But yeah.
Wait, that's a Bible verse, is it?
Huh?
That's a Bible verse, is it?
Probably. I don't remember. But oh my god, now I'm thinking, like, what's that Bible verse that Stone Cold Steve Austin says? I'll have to look that up after this. But anyway, in that, they present it as like, this is like a super evil thing that these people did that was allowed by the government because they thought that it was the only thing that would help turn the tide to save humanity as a whole.
Yeah.
Because the aliens are so dangerous. And then here, in Earthchild, they're like, yeah, we've been doing this for centuries. It's like, what the hell? How do they have that technology centuries ago? And it's like, I don't know. Before we were saying, oh, Waste is getting this face turn out of nowhere after seeming so evil when they first appear. And now they're like, oh, by the way, we're actually super evil.
Yeah. I'm not sure if the author himself is considering it evil. To age.
That's another thing, because I think it's been discussed for a lot of the recent Marvel series, like Black Widow and WandaVision. They do stuff when you think about it, you're like, oh, that's kind of evil, but it's like they did it for.
It's the main character. That's why it's good.
Oh, the main character did it, so it's fine. And they never talk about it when you think that, because like in Halo, at least they talk about it, and they're like, that was a really bad thing you did to me, right?
Yeah.
And I think that comes from authors being like, oh, we need some explanation, but then they don't think it through, and they don't realize, oh, that makes these characters seem really bad. Yeah, and that's why I think like this author is just flailing around and doesn't know what they're doing.
Absolutely is.
Yeah. And then the final thing is the dad's like, oh, my son's gonna grow up so quickly.
I think this is jumping the shark in a spectacular way, because you think that the series is going to be about the dad having to
raise the kid,
and now it's like, oh, we're skipping everything that the series is probably going to be about.
Yeah. It's so bad, because it's like they talked so much before about how, oh, it's so important for you to raise him well and give him a normal childhood. Actually,
makes it even worse.
We're skipping 10 years of his childhood, and by the way, we did that with your wife too. So
why is it? How could one person make so many mistakes?
It's not one person. That's the worst part. All of these series have an editor working on it. The editor was like, yeah, okay, do it.
Maybe it's because maybe they had to take this direction after the first 3 chapters when the ratings came in and they were so low that they were like, oh, this is going to get canceled immediately.
Yeah. I can't imagine that this is the best way they could have done it, because I think early on I still had like a little bit of hope, like, oh, it could become good, because I was like imagining. You still haven't read Spy Family, have you?
No.
Oh, it's an anime now. Go watch the anime.
Is it out?
Yeah, it's just started airing this weekend. It's really good.
Oh shit! I have to go and watch it.
But yeah, in that there is a psychic child, and there's lots of funny stuff involved in raising a psychic child, because she can hear everybody's thoughts.
The difference in that one is that it's from her perspective and
partly,
not from the dad's.
Well,
the dad doesn't even know she has psychic powers, doesn't he?
In that, it's one of those where it's more of a comedy, and it shows the perspective from multiple characters, because it starts out purely being from the dad's perspective, because the dad is a spy and he's like, I have to hide everything from people so they don't know I'm a spy. And then it introduces the daughter, and she's a psychic, and she's like, I have to hide that I'm a psychic from everybody.
Mhm.
And then the dad's like, well, to seem like a more normal family, I have to get a wife. So he like
Yeah.
meets some girl, and it's like, oh, my daughter needs a mother figure. Would you come live with us? But then
And
she's
that one happens
secretly
to
an
be incessant.
assassin. So she's also like, I gotta keep a secret from everybody. So it's this thing where everyone's keeping a secret, but the daughter actually knows everyone's secrets,
Mhm.
but then just isn't telling them because, you know, in her childish mind, she's like, oh, I need to keep everyone's
Yeah.
secrets so they'll be happy.
And thankfully, nobody's aging her up.
Thankfully, yeah, no one's like, let's make this kid 10 years older and immediately for no reason. I think it does help that she's like a preschooler, but not a literal baby. So she does
every
actually,
time
know
a
how to
child
talk.
needs to get aged up, I hate it.
Mhm.
One Piece did it after thousands of chapters, and I guess at that point it's like, yeah, okay, why not? But usually it's not that much. Like it's a kind of side event to One Piece in the grand scheme of things. It's
And we're
such a
not even
small.
seeing adult Momonosuke. The aging him up was purely, let's get you to a higher power level.
Yeah.
That's all it did.
But in that case, I don't really care about it that much. In Hunter x Hunter, it was
We haven't
also
seen
a
the
very
effects of it yet.
That's true. But in Hunter x Hunter, it was also very momentarily, and it was treated as if it's destroying Gong.
Yeah.
And I would say those are the only two examples where aging up a child just to give it more power or something were okay to somewhat okay.
Yeah.
Every other time when this has to happen, it's bad.
When else does it
I
happen?
would say, as a rule.
Well, what other examples can you think of where someone gets aged up?
In Sailor Moon, it happens.
Oh yeah, the Chibi Moon.
Yeah. If you give me a little more time, I'll be able to think of more
I'll
examples.
make a super cut. It's like, oh, does Freaky Friday count? Because that's
No,
more of a body swap. Not
yeah, that's
aging.
body swap.
Yeah.
It doesn't count.
Oh, Big. That's the most famous one, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
And
and that one is.
The kid becomes Tom Hanks. He plays the foot piano.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah. What do you mean it's not good? I don't like that movie, right?
There's problems with it.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it sometime. Well, you know what I think. Anyway, what'd you give this one?
0!
0, really? Wow.
No points!
No points at all.
Absolutely.
Just ended already. I said 1. That is very low. So
disrespect.
This is.
Oh, you get points. It's just 1.
Just 1. This is just. I think this series is like, what, 3 episodes in a row champion for us saying this is what's gonna end first. This has just been the worst series in Jump. Well, I don't know. There's a couple that we aren't following. This is the worst one that we're following.
I bet those are better than this one.
You think school,
even high
family
school,
school,
even high school
family. At least it's got that cute cat in it.
It's better. It's consistent.
Anyway,
it's just one joke, but that joke is at least not as terrible as this.
Tell me about PPPPP.
Yes, there's not much to tell you about PPPPP this time, because this time it's basically just Miming coming to the realization that she might hate the piano.
Oh no.
And
her whole
that's
life.
what's going to that's what's supposed to destroy her in Meloli's
the evil plot from last week. Yeah.
It's so evil.
Sad.
And the big solution is that she's just supposed to listen to Lucky's performance, and that's probably going to give her the courage to and it'll light her fire again.
Revive her love for the music.
That's pretty much all that happens in this chapter. Not very not a lot of things happen, and it's kind of boring. So that's why it's only getting 10 points from me.
Wow, it's down there near Earthchild.
Yeah.
Well, going on.
I was tempted to give it 0 points as well,
really?
but then
wow.
I looked at Earthchild and was like,
bad
no.
Earthchild was. Yeah, I think so, it sounds like sometimes PPPPP is like it's nothing of a chapter, but then Earthchild is worse than nothing because it actively makes you upset when you're reading it because it's so badly written. Going on. Elusive Samurai.
Oh yeah.
Hour of the Dog. So yeah, the uncle's plan gets totally foiled. They figured it out.
It was a little disappointing that they didn't even get to go through with the plan. They just got snitched.
It just immediately they were snitched, and it's like, yep, they're gonna get arrested.
I'm sure this is historically accurate, but also it's not the way I would have depicted it in the manga.
Yeah,
because they make such a big deal out of how evil it is that they are trying to kill the Mikado, but then they don't even
get the chance.
They don't even go close to.
Yeah, it's like the other things in it stretch the history so much. I'm like, I'm sure it'd be fine if they had like an actual scene where the Emperor goes in and like reveals his suspicions before stepping on the trap.
I suppose the decision was that they didn't want to depict the Mikado at all, so they can't even get to the point where he's invited and coming over and almost stepping into the trap, because then they'd have
noticed
to
that every scene
him.
with him, it's just from the perspective of the court.
It's just
and they only see him behind the screen with his glowing,
always just his Ebola eyes.
The Emperor is growing stronger. He'll be fine.
He's already too strong. Everybody needs to stop praying to him.
Yeah, exactly. He's gonna escape from the palace and no one will be able to catch him. But yeah, this guy that was partnering up with the uncle, he's like, yeah, I accept my fate. I'll go and die. And I don't know why he did it. Is this just like one of those old school Japanese honor things?
Yeah. Also, probably historical accuracy.
Yeah, because the uncle's like, we have an escape route. You can run away with us. He's like, nah, guess I'll die. He dies. And we get
and this time, unlike in One Piece, there's nobody who's telling him that's stupid.
Yeah. One Piece samurai get to have a different perspective from people who are not of their culture.
Yeah.
We get this tearful farewell.
Yeah, Tokiyuki is very distressed about what's his name? Takauji.
Yeah, he got totally owned.
Not recognizing him, not acknowledging his existence, completely belittling him in his attempt to assassinate him.
He not only belittles his attempt to assassinate him, but he's like, come be one of my little clown boys. And Tokiyuki is like, this is an insult.
I was okay, calling it clown boy. That's disrespectful. I thought it was he was supposed to be like the sexual manservant, but like clown boy, that's even worse. Like imagine you get conquered and you think, oh no, I'm going to become a sexual slave, but then you have to be the clown. That's
I'm sure there's precedence for that in history.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's leaving in tears, and Miwa sees him, and they are sadly saying goodbye. I expected that they were going to team up during this arc, but it's like they failed so hard, have to run away. It's like, guess not.
Yeah, but she's going to come back because
Yeah,
they
yeah.
introduced her dad, and he had this really specific gimmick about him
Yes.
that you can tell his
He's-
emotions, and he's high up in
Mhm.
the hierarchy. So
Yeah, and
this isn't going to be the last time we see
he's
her.
famous historically as well. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then on their way back, the uncle does something
I
funny
could
again.
not believe that the uncle did this thing again.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
But how does it work again? Because you'd think that after there's like an assassination attempt on like the two most powerful guys in the country, you'd think that they'd be like, let's tighten up security.
No. The thing is, they rushed ahead of any kind of.
So no news has reached where they are.
Yeah. And it makes
so
sense
unbelievably
for the uncle to do his pathetic shtick again, because when he tried it the first time, it was so pathetic that you might even expect it to fail. So him coming back and going, I got fired, is like makes sense. But there's one inconsistency, and that is that this time he's not begging the big teeth guy, the one who looks like
it's a
weird
different guard.
elephant, and so he doesn't even get the chance
same guy,
to.
And he got his teeth fixed in the meantime.
Nah, that's not how it works.
The medieval orthodontist came to town.
It would have been funny if he was just drooling and spitting and crying on his teeth one more time.
Yeah, it'd be a return of that gag. A little background nod to what came before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was kind of a not very eventful.
So my note on this chapter was that there was not enough detail on the eluding for something titled Elusive Samurai. Then it's just like, he cries when he sees Miwa and says goodbye, and then it's just like flash forward, oh yeah, they got out of the city. And it's like, you're skipping what the title is about.
This is the general problem of this issue in total. Like we get the summary of something happening, but we're so interested in the minute detail of how the thing is happening.
And then the only story in this issue that had lots of detail so far was detail that we hated in Earthchild. We're like, no, not this kind of detail.
It's the worst.
But yeah, everything else, it's like, yeah, I would have liked a bit more detail on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Yeah, so what'd you give it? I said 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm very close to it. 55.
All right. Well, not all of chapters of Elusive Samurai can be winners. The next, is Shugomaru getting better again, or is it bad again?
It's wait, is it better or getting worse? Let me check last week's
last
rating.
Because I remember a couple weeks ago you were like really happy with it. Then last week you're like, no, it's boring again.
Yeah, it got boring again. It got worse. The introduction of the new characters. I guess it's shaping up in this chapter. You get a better feel for it, and the author is making a little bit progress on how to make use of these characters.
Okay.
But all in all of their gimmicks are stupid, and the only good thing this chapter was Shugomaru being a stupid baby child. That's the only joke, the only consistent joke that I can accept. That he loves doing baby stuff. So in this chapter they go to the mall and they have to protect Sanagi from no dangers at all. And in the end they go to the food cart, and all of the kids have to they get to order whatever they want. They come back with those buzzers that tell you, now your food is ready, come get it. And they think the buzzers are explosives and punch the wall really hard to make a huge hole, and then they throw them out. And
Wow.
the buzzers keep buzzing, and then they are like, when's our food coming?
Are these kids? They're like ninjas, right? What's their background of training?
Sure.
They're
I
ninjas.
think Shugomaru is the only one who's specifically a ninja from a
Okay.
ninja clan, but everybody else is, I think, just bodyguards.
Because I remember reading a thing about ninjas throughout history, like the real
Yeah.
life ninjas, and one of the things that kind of got lost because of all the fiction is that ninjas were actually very, very interested in adopting new technology. They wanted to keep up with what's the new technology, because they'd be like, oh, how could we use this for like spying and sabotage and stuff. But then, like, I feel like in a lot of modern fiction involving ninjas, then the ninjas, they're like, oh yeah, we're still doing the same thing as like 400 years ago.
Very
And
fixated
they
on
don't
the
know
tradition.
anything about modern stuff, because there's I forget what they're called, but there's a collection of like old scrolls. They're like some ninja group like kept these scrolls, and modern people dug them up, and they found that there is because I've learned this back when I was like really into Naruto and all the ninja stuff, because they describe everything in that series like, oh, it's this jutsu or that jutsu. So apparently in later days, the ninjas actually would have a scroll where they would study gun jutsu.
What?
Yeah, and it's basically just, it was the ways to conceal firearms and to use firearms, and nothing is like magical. It's just like, yeah, here's how to use a gun if you can hide it. Because
that's a little bit too mundane for my taste.
I know.
I was expecting equilibrium gun kata.
That reminds me. Have you seen the video game Pistol Whip?
No.
Okay, it's a rhythm gun game. So you have to shoot stuff to the rhythm. It's a VR game.
And is it the one
like,
where the VTuber is running forward and all the Western guys are?
Yeah. The guys that
that
come
one.
out and shoot at you, and you shoot back. But you have to shoot them to the rhythm. And I was thinking like, a game like that, because one thing I thought was weird in that, and I guess with a lot of VR games, I always think it's weird when they have lots of walking in them, because you're just standing there like in actuality, except for the ones where where you have to go to a place and they have a treadmill. But for that one, I'm like, oh, for like a home VR game with where you have to shoot to the rhythm, they should make an equilibrium one where you do gun kata to the rhythm. And instead of like shooting a particular guy, it's like, oh, shoot in this direction or that direction. I think that would be fun.
I don't have enough experience with VR to make a definitive call on what it should be like and what it shouldn't be like, because I don't know how overwhelmed you get.
So.
Eventually I'll get to it, but for now I don't know how overwhelmed you would get by like very elaborate backgrounds or something, because all of those games are just super hot level of backgrounds, right? It's very...
It depends. I think the rhythm games I've seen are all like really simplistic.
Yeah.
So it's probably because a lot of them are indie games. But there are like VR games that are basically simulators. Like, oh, I forget the name of it, but there's some VR game where it's a flight sim, and the creators of it were literally like, we wanted to make this as close to as possible to the stuff that they train like real fighter pilots on. So it's like really, really ultra detailed. And like stuff like the Half-Life VR, that's very, very detailed.
That doesn't count.
But most VR games, yeah, you're right, a lot of them are kind of more simplistic. I think also because a lot of people play VR games on mobile with like the mobile headset.
Oh,
So it's like your phone isn't going to be able to handle that kind of graphics for a lot of games. It's
I see.
the technology is it's advancing, but it's kind of a mashup. What's funny is I think one of the most fun games I've played in VR. One of my friends has Tetris Effect VR on PlayStation, and I played that. I was like, oh, it's actually like it's really nice just to have the floating Tetris screen, and you're concentrating on that. The worst VR game that I've played is the Spider-Man one because it's like motion
Vomit
sickness
machine.
inducing. Yeah. It was
I wouldn't be able to play
it's
that.
such a cool concept, but the fact that
Yeah, I
it
suppose,
gives you so
but
much
I wouldn't be
motion
able to
sickness,
play
it's
that.
no fun. Yeah.
I'm already getting motion sickness from playing stuff where, like I told you in the Elden Ring stream that
Oh, did you get motion sickness
in
from
Metal Gear
Elden Ring?
Solid
Oh, motion.
5,
Yeah, Metal Gear.
the camera shakes even when Snake isn't on a horse.
Mhm.
The horse makes it worse, but
yeah.
him running
camera shakes.
already gives enough shakes to make me go.
Somehow
can't play
that
this.
didn't make me motion sick. I think
I'm very sensitive.
one game that did kind of get me was I'm trying to remember the name of it. Descent. I don't know if you ever played that, but it's a spaceship game. And the thing is that you can fly into asteroids and like giant space stations. And the thing is that it's a game where since you're in space the entire time, there's no up.
Just
so
like in Star Wars.
Yeah, so you have to reorient yourself like however you want. So then the way that like enemies will come at you from like weird angles, it's kind of motion sickness inducing. Because I think I played that game like immediately after playing like Doom, so it's like, I can get into 3D perspective for games when I'm walking on a flat plane. And then this game is like, go in all directions.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah. There's lots of games like that that's like, it's a cool concept, but it's going to make a lot of people sick and not be able to enjoy it. Did you say how you rated this one? This Shugomaru?
40 points, just
40
like
points.
last week.
Okay. Oh,
wasn't good.
Comment on this. Shugomaru is supposed to be 10, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that there's many 10-year-olds who would be able to comfortably fit in a baby's high chair.
Maybe Japanese 10-year-olds?
Okay, because I'm like, I think that your butt would be too wide for most baby high chairs by the time you're 10. Maybe it's a special high chair.
I don't really have a frame of reference for how big or small a 10-year-old is.
Go over to your local elementary school and be like, hey kid, can you fit into a high chair? See if they like that. Anyway, going on.
I won't ask those questions.
We got Ayashimon.
This time it was a little bit better.
The gross old man.
He's also extremely old. Not as old as Waste, but...
No, he's very old and very nasty. And it's funny because it reminded me a little bit of in Jigoku Raku, they have the sages who have been alive for 1,000 years.
Yeah, and they're very sexy.
Yeah, very opposite to this.
Imagine living for that long and ending up as a hobo.
I know. Yeah, I saw that they were going to the homeless encampment. It's like, just like in Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Yeah, that's
that's like the primary frame of reference for this. It's just the main character loves manga instead of video games.
Dragon Quest.
Yeah, and I think
to be fair, I think Dragon Quest is completely linked to Shonen Jump. So.
Oh yeah, it was designed by
Akira Toriyama, and it
yeah.
did have a manga series.
I never read it.
I don't think it's very
just
good.
making me think again about how I think last time we talked about how funny it is in Yakuza Like a Dragon that the main character, they explained that because of his head injury, he views real life events as being like Dragon Quest events, and that's why they have all the spells. And
do you know if
it zoomed out for like somebody else's perspective, they would just be fighting normally, but he sees it as like, oh, everyone's using spells and stuff.
Do you know if the game actually spells it out that this is all in his head?
Yeah.
Like, is it very obvious? Because the way I heard about it, it might as well be one of those things like in Pokemon. You know, the Pokemon anime where people are like, oh, all of the adventures are in Ash's head because when he got struck by the lightning, he went into a coma, and all of this stuff is just his imagination, and that's why it's super deep, but you don't get it because you didn't...
They don't go that far as to be like all the adventures are in his head, because obviously he's like meeting different people and stuff, and, you know, getting...
Yeah, but
and doing stuff.
I wasn't sure if the game actually says, oh, this is actually not what's
it doesn't
happening.
straight out say, but it implies that because there's spells in the game. It's a Yakuza game with spells in it. And it just has the implication that the spells are just how the main character is viewing.
Well, all I need is somebody reacting to it like, what are you talking about, Ichiban?
Yeah, they do have something like that where he pulls a baseball bat out of concrete and he calls it his magic sword, and people are like, what the hell are you talking about?
Oh, okay.
That's like the main thing. But yeah, it makes me feel like it would have been funny if they had a bit of that with Maruo, where...
Yeah, the whole manga thing is underused, I think.
Because they did that once when he's fighting the guys in the office that Ten worked at. And he says he's going to use a special move, like...
oh, yeah. We did mention that.
Because he said he wanted to do a special move like Gon. And then he just punches him normally, and I'm like, that was funny.
Yeah.
Because that was the closest thing to happen.
Yeah, that's right. We did mention that it would have been funnier if he was always having his imagination, but then he's just punching the people normally.
Yeah, exactly.
Wasted potential.
But this time we do get some details from this gross old guy.
It's almost too much information.
Yeah.
Because it's pulling out all of these weird Indian Sanskrit words again.
Right, because they tell Mara that he has lots of prana. He has to increase his nadi and chakra are not good. He's like, no, my chakra.
And his what's it called? Suksma?
Something like that. Yeah, I didn't write it down.
Suksma and Ligma. There was those words also, or rather, this kind of esoteric vocabulary also happens in Jigokuraku. So,
oh yeah, it's got a lot of that.
The author must love this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure the author has a bunch of like books about these are the beliefs of the ancients about how the body worked. Yeah, I did like this page where it's talking about how the physical world and yokai world interact, and it's through money and concepts, because money itself is only a concept of worth.
I feel I have mixed feelings about this.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, because like calling all yokai immaterial and that they interact with the real world through money and I don't know, somehow that doesn't that takes away from some other explanations, like how they can manipulate the real world with supernatural powers, like creating fire. I don't think that has anything to do with money. Or rather, you can't make it about money.
My thought was just because money is a physical manifestation of the concept of value to people. So then that's how it connects to yokai, because a lot of them are they're based on a concept, right? Like being scared of the dark, or being or blowing out candles. Which I was surprised at that explanation of Dappo, by the way. What did you think of that?
It didn't do anything for me because I don't know if that's a made-up yokai or if it's
probably
a yokai that
people
actually exists.
Scared of.
I just gotta have to assume it's a yokai that actually exists, but it would have helped if, just like in Akane-banashi, the author had put
what the
yokai normally looks
what they look like in the
him.
Ancient drawings. That would have been great.
That would have really helped.
Yeah, now I want to see that.
Same with Koton, where
we don't know.
We only have
himself.
Yeah, and he's the. I think I know what the cloth yokai looks like because I've seen that in video games. But the crucial element that I'm missing is the information if this yokai is always known to be like flash lightning quick.
Yeah.
I'm just going to assume it is, but I'm missing this information.
Yeah. As with others, we just wish that there was a little bit more information given. And then we get a training montage.
Yeah, finally
Maruo.
A good one.
Finally. And he's they tell him to grab the chestnuts out of the fire. And it's funny, have you watched Ranma 1/2?
Yes.
Do you remember the training scene in that when he has to grab chestnuts out of a fire?
Yeah.
And then it was so lame that it's just like, oh yeah, you just gotta grab it really fast. And then
Ranma as a whole is really lame. So the
well,
only thing nowadays
it's a romantic comedy.
The only good thing about Ranma nowadays is
other battle manga.
Sometimes when artists are like, "Oh, I feel so nostalgic about Ranma," and then they draw nudes of Ranma, that's the only thing nowadays that Ranma is good for.
Yeah, getting that forced feminization fetish in.
Yeah. Do you remember? This is a very famous anecdote. I don't know where it's from, but it gets repeated so often that it must have been like one of the big interviews where Rumiko Takahashi was asked what happens if Ranma got pregnant and then turned back into a man. And I mean, that's a really
good question. Yeah,
good question. It's kind of obvious to ask this question because that's one of the main differences between men and women when you speak about like somebody who has the power to just switch back and forth. And since she never thought about it that deeply and just wanted it to be funny, she was like, I don't want to talk about that. Please don't think about it too deeply.
Yeah.
It was just supposed to be fun. You're making it weird.
I feel like at that point you just say, oh, he can't get pregnant in girl form.
Yeah, just say that.
Yeah. Anyway, so Maruo training, and I like the explanation from the old guy.
Yeah.
Saying that reading manga is touching your Suksma Sarira. It heals your whatever. It heals your prana or whatever, something like that.
Suksma.
Yeah. I'm gonna say that every time I stay up late reading manga instead of getting a full night's sleep.
Just training my Suksma.
I'm training my Suksma.
And then when the other person who's trying to scold you for it, it's like, yo, what? And you're like, Suksma dick!
So how did you rate this one?
71. It was nice.
I would say the same. Around 7. It's it's kind of neat, maybe a bit wordy, but I'm glad we got some. I like having some more details about their world.
I just like a proper training montage.
Proper training montage, yeah.
Not just one
Working
guy
hard and
doing
getting
the
better.
same thing all over again, but like
doing
a whole
lots of different
crew.
things. Yeah, he's got a team behind him cheering for him.
The whole motorcycle
All the
squad
motorcyclists
is
going, do it. Just
they're
do
going
it.
to the bath together.
Mm-hmm.
And they're eating together. That's what I want to see. That's the kind of montage I'm really into.
The camaraderie. Even though we don't know most of these guys' names.
It's
going
okay.
on. We have the worst Ayashimon.
This wasn't particularly good. I'm lenient this time.
Chapter, I was like, what the hell is this change of pace after last time when we were like, oh, these humanoid Mononoke are so strong. And then this time the officer is like, I'm just going to take out 2 of them in one chapter.
Yeah.
I did not expect that at all. He just wastes them.
I think that's a sign of cancellation.
I think so too. It's like, oh, they have to wrap up a lot of these things as quickly as possible.
He almost
gets 18. He almost gets the 3rd guy too. You're right. You always say that it's around 18 when you decide to
2 more chapters maximum. Or rather 2 chapters, and I think we'll see the cancellation. If it's not in 2 chapters, it's maximum 5. So at 23, I think that's where it could.
Yeah, their battle is only just beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, how'd you rate that one?
Looking forward to it. 52.
Yeah, around. I think
it was
6 out of 10.
Some of the stuff was competent, but it's just way too fast.
Yeah. The pacing. I think this one,
Spider Girl.
Yeah, so she gets eaten by his blades, big chompy thing, and then he cuts this dude in half. And I'm like, okay, I feel like compared to previous fight scenes, I can tell easier what's going on.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're like packing it all in together, it's such a weird pacing. And yeah,
the funny thing is the way he attacks is it feels very fighting game like, where first he does his move that staggers you, and then he does a special afterwards
move, a ranged special move,
and he does it exactly the same way for both of those. So it's like this is his thing. First he goes in for a heavy
his bread and butter combo.
Yeah.
The third guy watched, so he knew how to dodge the second hit.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, going on. Now we've got something that we all liked.
Yeah.
It's
this is
the newest one-shot from Fujimoto, the author of Chainsaw Man.
Yes.
Goodbye, Eri.
I gave this one 100 points. This was so good.
I gave it 9 out of 10, and there's one thing that I detracted points for. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah. I hope nobody is always going to listen to us and going like, oh, these guys are so negative. They don't ever like something. But this one,
this was great.
We like stuff. Yeah. This is awesome.
Makes me want to review the look back as well, because I don't think we were doing the podcast yet when that came out.
Yeah, it was just a little off, but
yeah, because I really like.
We might have to reread that. It was also very good. Probably also 100.
I want to reread Chainsaw Man Part 1 and Look Back after reading this. I'm like, oh, before Chainsaw Man Part 2 comes out, because I noticed that both Goodbye Eri and Look Back are like very
meta.
Focused. Yeah, they're very meta. Both of them are about content creation, creating art. And they're also both about dealing with loss. And it's... but then they also are both presented with a slightly fantastical twist in them.
Yeah.
So, Goodbye Eri. I guess we could summarize it. We'll just assume everybody... Everybody who's listening has read it because it's so good.
Just in case anybody who's listening hasn't
so
read it
our
yet,
spoiler-free review is
you
just
must
go
read it. It's so good.
Yeah, it's so good you can't miss it. Go read it now. It's excellent. So the beginning of it is the main character is he a middle schooler or a high schooler?
Yeah, middle schooler.
A middle schooler. Then his mom is dying of some disease, and she asks
I'm gonna
him
say it's cancer.
Yeah, probably cancer.
Did you know the cancer rate in Japan is the only one in the developed world that's still rising?
Really?
And apparently in all other developed nations, it's either stagnating or going down. And in Japan, it's the only one that's still rising because apparently they put a lot of banned substances in their food.
Oh, that's unexpected.
Yeah, because you always think, oh, the Japanese people live forever and they get so old. And
yeah, my other guess was gonna be,
food
is it just because
very healthy?
My guess was gonna be, is it just because they get so old that their cancer rate is higher because people in the rest of the world are dying earlier of heart attacks before they can die of cancer?
I think
but
no.
Maybe the food thing, yeah. That's crazy.
As far as I understand it, that's not the case.
Oh gosh, I hope they do something about that.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, but anyway, the mom has cancer, and she asks the son to film her, and she specifically requests to film up to her death. And he's like, I'm going to turn it into a movie. But then at the end, he can't bring himself to film his mom's death, and he runs away from the hospital.
I think the thing is, at first, he doesn't get told to turn it into a movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he also doesn't express the intention to make it into a movie.
At first
you just see all of the recordings he's made. And then at the final moment when he's supposed to film her last moments,
he runs away.
And then you see that all of these scenes are already the edited product that he's put together
for a movie. And he shows it to a movie. School.
And the finale is him running away from the hospital and the hospital exploding, which is a very indie Japanese cinema. If you've watched a little bit of Japanese cinema, which
I have,
I would say is always relatively bad.
There's some good movies.
No, but okay. And if you then take what the amateurs are making, then those are even worse. And some of those really bad ideas they come up with are like exactly like this.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can at very least tell that Fujimoto is extremely in tune with what Japanese cinema looks like. This is very realistic. But also realistic is how all of the classmates of the main character react to it, because they hated it. They joke about it, but later on he asks everybody for their individual opinions, and everybody's like, well, that was really bad. Why did you do that? That was so disrespectful. It was so in such bad taste. And he doesn't like that. I mean, he's in the wrong.
It hurts him so much.
He's kind of in the wrong.
He's going to kill himself over it.
Yeah. Yeah. But just when he was trying to kill himself, he meets a
title character.
What's it called? Pixie
Manic Pixie Dream Girl, Eri.
Shows
up. Yeah, to save him from killing himself.
And she kind of is one of those, right?
She is. She's definitely like that. She's so eccentric. And it's like, let's go watch movies together in this abandoned building.
Because she's the only one in school who liked the movie. And that's mainly because it resonated with her.
Right.
Because she also has a sickness that she's keeping from...
Yet.
It's not revealed yet, but
she is also dying. So I'm like, I got to this point, and I was like, oh, it's one of those, like, because I know that there's a lot of like young adult movies that have this theme of like, oh, a kid meets a new friend who turns out to be dying, or like has an accident and dies, and they have to deal with
Yeah.
it. Like, there's a
That
lot
seems
of
very cliche.
coming of age movies and books that are like that. It's like, it's one of those. But it did it so well, and just the way that it went through with the twists of what, how much are we seeing that's supposed to be, I guess, canon to what's happening to them,
Yeah.
and how much is what's been edited for the movies that they talk about later, and just the way that they mentioned about how editing those recordings was a way for him to make sure that he only remembers the people in the ways that they would have wanted him to.
Yeah.
I thought that was very, very touching as well.
Even though,
yeah,
because that's the other big twist is
Yeah.
that his mother was kind of horrible.
Yes. So okay. So first off, Ari's like, let's make our own movie, or not. Let's make our own movie. She says, "Why don't you write another movie? Because I would like to see another movie from you."
By the way, that
after
panel
they've
just
watched.
now, I want to
Uh-huh.
use that as a reaction image.
Yeah,
The
that's a
one
good
where
one.
she says, "This is how they do it in Hollywood. Don't you
Yeah.
trust Hollywood?"
That is a good
That
reaction panel.
that could work in so many situations.
It could. But yeah, they watch a ton of movies together, and then she tells him to write another movie.
All of the movie watching is kind of a training montage when you think about it.
It is, yeah, because they discuss what they liked and didn't like in movies.
And she explains that in order to become a good movie director, you have to watch tons of movies in order to realize what's good and what's not good.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so they have a bit of a training montage in a way. But then the first twist.
By the way, you would also have to watch a lot of Rakugo in order to realize what's good Rakugo and what's not. And suspiciously, we're not getting shown a lot of Rakugo.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think we mentioned that earlier. Is that
I just want to point it out again.
Akane-banashi could learn from Goodbye Eri.
Everybody could.
Yes, and the first twist is when it comes out that the mom is not actually a good mother, and the dad reveals that he actually filmed her death for her, and that the reason that she had asked the main character to film her is because she wanted to make, like, she works in the TV industry, and she wanted to make a documentary about how heroic her own recovery was. But of course, she didn't recover. And then the son deleted everything that he had recorded that would make the mom not look like
bad.
The perfect mother. And the dad, like, even points out that, like, oh, she wasn't as good to you as you portrayed in your movie.
Yeah.
So then he decides that his next movie is going to be a sequel to the first one with the new main character being Eri. But in his story, then Eri is a vampire who is, what did they say? She's like finally coming to the end of her life after 1,000 years or something.
Something like that. The interesting thing is that he uses his previous movie as a backdrop for the next movie, which is basically repeating the plot of the first movie and repeating the plot of everything that has happened up
in
until
real
this
life.
point.
So
it's kind meta of, inside meta.
Yeah, it's a very meta film idea to be like, oh, well, the story of this one is that I made a movie and then no one liked it. So I'm doing it again, but with a new main character.
Yeah.
And here's the part that is the second twist. that it turns out that
The plot that he thought up was
yes, was
actually
real.
going to happen.
Because Eri turns out to be dying. And then after she dies, their only mutual friend tells him that she thought it was odd that he had really sanitized the Eri for his movie and made her seem a lot nicer than she really was.
Never filming her with her glasses on, never filming her with her, what's it called?
Her retainers for her teeth.
Retainers on.
Yeah.
Not filming her when she's having a bad
temper
temper.
tantrum. Yeah, things like that. So I thought like,
and we as the readers never got to see that either, because
yeah, that's why it didn't
we
get a 10.
constantly get all of these edited moments, so it's
Yeah,
really
and
hard to tell as a reader.
It's interesting to me because that kind of this reveal, then it's like it's saying that, oh, everything that we've read up to now was basically the guy's second movie.
Yes.
It was not his full experiences. And
it's blurring the lines between what's real and what's
canon
just part
and
of,
and what's the story that he's making. Yeah.
Is it the story or is it the story within the story?
Yeah, exactly. It's because that also comes to like the ways that everyone remembers things slightly differently, right? So then he's trying to make this movie, and part of it is because he wants to remember the people they cared for in a positive light, even though they weren't always.
You could say that.
Yeah. And after that, you wrote the Magu-chan speedrun. That is what it does.
Yeah, because after Eri dies and he makes his movie about where she dies, it does a two-page spread where he says, well, afterwards it didn't go as well for me as it did in the end of the movie. I hold myself up. I went to college. I dropped out of college. I got a job. I got a family. I kept editing the movie because it still bothered me.
He never became a real director of other movies. He would just keep editing the movie about Eri.
The same footage that he took over and over again. And then apparently he had a car crash where he was the only survivor, and his whole family, everybody, dad, even the dad
and his daughter were all together, and they all died.
So then he does the thing again where he's like, I'm gonna kill myself, and then he has this encounter with Eri again.
He goes back to the abandoned building where he had been taken by Eri,
where they always watched the movies together.
He meets her again.
And
she says that she really is a vampire, but she revives after dying.
That's a very specific gimmick.
It is, and that she
even explains it. She even explains it in a way that every 200 years she dies because taking so many information makes your head explode, almost literally. It fries your brain. But since she's a vampire, it doesn't matter if her brain explodes, because as long as her heart is intact, she can come back to life. And every time it happens, it wipes her memory, and she leaves letters to herself.
And that now she likes the main character's movie.
Because
she can watch it and learn
one
about
whole
the
biography.
Kind of person. Yeah, and even though it's not true to what she was. He doesn't say that to her, though. Yeah, she likes it.
This shot right here is very interesting because it plays with the...
It has the main character in current day with the Eri in the movie behind him. And then the Eri in the current day with him from the movie behind them.
It plays with us knowing the way they always sat on the couch. And usually you'd put both of them in, like you'd make a big spread of it, but the author chose to make it a split page. And I don't know what the meaning is, but I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I think so too. And she likes it.
So
says,
she keeps watching the movie. She continues with her habit of not wanting anybody to talk during a movie. And since he has already closed this chapter inside his heart, apparently, he just leaves instead of hanging out and being like, wow, Eri.
And then he never sees her again.
My one true friend. I'm so glad you're back, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't happen.
That would be the expected thing.
You'd think that happens, but instead he just leaves. And
then
it does the best the best, what's it called when something from somewhere before it comes back.
A callback.
The best callback ever. Yeah. Because then he realizes what was missing from all the time when he was trying to edit the movie again and again and again. Where she says, well, it's missing a bit of fantasy, which his dad pointed out that every time he's making something, he wants it to be a little bit fantastical.
Yeah.
And then he realized the one thing.
As a little kid, his drawings would have add a little bit of fantasy to real life events.
And explosions. And that's what he does. Yeah. He walks away like a badass from the abandoned building, and it explodes. Which
is also a meta thing, because then you're like, oh, so very likely then his it's not actually saying that Eri is really a vampire and he met her again. It's that this was his final way to finish the story. Because also, if you'll notice, then when he meets Eri again, she's not wearing glasses.
Indeed.
So it's his movie version of Eri rather than the real Eri.
So basically, everything might have been just a movie.
Everything was a movie, yeah.
But it's impossible to tell, because
I like that
when
kind
you think
of
about it,
slight ambiguity in a story.
How would he have filmed Eri when she's like, maybe this, if we assume that everything has been a movie and nothing was real, then we might assume that they filmed the scene where Eri is on the sofa,
and that's why it doesn't have them in the same shot.
Yes,
because he went back to film himself decades later.
Yes, possibly, but that's such a who would do that?
This guy. But yeah, it's a sort of thing where it's like, it's a sad story, but then there's also like really funny parts in it, and then there's things that it makes you think as well.
It's also very realistic, because all of these camera shots and the dialogues and the way he's filming stuff, like, that's so evocative of movies you might have seen already.
And it's one thing that I thought about it is that the way that it has the very consistent framing most of the time, where it's just these very wide
almost every page is just 4 panels in widescreen.
And then you can imagine, like, when it's not those, then it seems almost like it's a shot that would be panning in a movie or animation. It's like when I was reading this, I was like, one part of me was also thinking throughout it, it's kind of weird to get distracted with meta stuff, but maybe it's appropriate in here. But like throughout reading it, I was thinking, this would be like a really good like actual movie. Because it basically, like, everything is just, it's storyboarded out. So just some animation studio should just turn this into a real movie. It would be really good.
Why not? Nothing's stopping them. It's already perfectly planned out.
Because I'm trying to think. There are a lot of movies already existing that are about people who like to make movies, because all these writers get told, write what you know. So then, these indie directors are like, I'm going to write a movie about making movies because that's what I do. And I think most of them are kind of garbage.
Yeah.
Because they don't think it through well enough. For instance, there's a J.J. Abrams movie called Super 8.
Oh,
And
yeah, I know that one.
Yeah, it starts out being about making movies, and then it just becomes like alien monster schlock.
Wait, isn't is that the one with aliens, or is that the one with superpowers?
Aliens.
Which one is the one with superpowers? Where?
Oh, that's is it called Record?
I don't know.
I'm not quite remembering the title, but I think it has the guy who plays American Light Yagami and the guy who plays Amazing Spider-Man Harry Osborn are two of the kids who get superpowers. I think it's them.
Really?
But anyway, that
I
movie,
don't want it to be Light Yagami.
I like that movie. I thought it was all right.
Yeah, but I don't want Light Yagami.
Maybe I'm wrong, and it's just the setting is the same.
I thought it was the guy who later plays Split and X-Men and
Chronicle,
isn't that one of them?
Is the title Chronicle.
Chronicle.
So the main guys. Okay, so the main guys are Dane DeHaan, Alex Russell, and Michael B. Jordan. So Michael B. Jordan Michael B. Jordan. So he was Creed.
Michael
Rocky
Basketball
sequels.
Jordan.
Yeah, that's his name. Then so I'm wrong. None of the three were in Death Note, the American Death Note.
Thank goodness, because American Death Note is one of those Aladdin movies that if you were involved with them, nobody's going to touch you ever again.
It's going to hurt your chances for future things. Yeah, the other guy I was thinking of, he was in a movie by the director of The Fifth Element that nobody liked.
Luc Besson.
The Valerian. He was in the adaptation of Valerian.
Yeah, that was a dumb movie.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because I think the comic book is from like half a century ago.
Yeah.
And since then, I think the popularity of the comic has kind of gone away, but there's a sleep medicine that the name of it sounds a lot like Valerian.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, so it's kind of unfortunate.
I think in French or at least other Roman languages, it's literally that.
Valerian. Yeah.
So very on the nose.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what else is there that is actually really good that's like this level of meta-ness. Because I've told you before about how much I hate the storyline in Super Hot. That game tries to be meta on the level of this.
You did tell me, and you might have already told me what. Yeah, I forgot.
Okay, so in that game, it's a like arena shooter.
Yeah, I know that. What's the story? What's the meta?
So the meta story of it that I hated is that you'll get these messages on screen to like go to a place like after some levels. And you'll go to those places and you'll find an in-game character sitting at a computer playing the game that you're playing. Yeah. And then it'll tell you to kill that character. And once you kill that character, then the
game stops.
No, the game will spawn you into the next level. And it'll do weird stuff like there's one part where the game will, I forget how they explain it, but like it breaks it down and then it becomes a 2D game, and you for a while you can't actually play the regular 3D game. You play like a shitty top-down 2D version of it. And I'm like, it's doing things, it's trying, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of times, because those sections, they all take control. They took so much control away from you. And I feel like that's part of their intention is that they're like, oh, it's going to be so deep for a game where, you know, the main gameplay, you have such detailed control over everything that happens. And how about for the story parts? You have no control over what happens. Oh, people are going to have their minds blown. And then I was just like, this is annoying. I don't want to play it anymore.
I am 14 and this is deep.
Yeah, exactly. So
incidentally, some people replied that to Sayonara Eri.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, because
yeah.
I was gonna say, like, there's stuff like that where it tries to be meta and deep, and then I hate it. But then this is the case where it's like it's very meta, and I'm like, oh, I love it. So there's
people
some
who say that just don't realize how genius it is.
There's some line where this is like on the line for me, but I guess for some other readers might be crossing it.
That's the one complaint you have. Which one?
No. My one complaint is that they talk about you never see Eri with glasses.
That's so specific to you.
Yeah, can't you tell?
I didn't even think of that.
That's the only one complaint I have, because for the meta-ness, I'm like, this is the exact level of meta that I like, where it's done in a way that's it's slightly ambiguous, so it's not hitting your head over. It's not hitting you over the head with it, and then it doesn't. Because I feel like a lot of times when stories try to do something meta, they'll have it in a way. I'm trying to articulate it. It feels a lot of times like the meta aspect of a story is going against what the straightforward part of the story is doing. But then this doesn't do it. This one, it's like, oh, the fact that this happens in the end actually plays in perfectly with what we were told before.
It's probably because the meta that you dislike is the meta that goes out of the movie and talks about things that are the manga. So about things that are outside of the piece of media that you are trying to enjoy. But this one is going inside. It has
like
a story within the story, and it's going inside.
Inception. That's another thing that's actually kind of about creating art. Because have you seen it?
No.
Okay, well, I won't spoil it for you.
I bought the Blu-ray.
Okay, well, go watch it, because that's also a story that is...
Is it doing it well?
I thought so. I really liked it. Where it'll have characters basically telling you, like, oh, well, this or that is just made up. And then at the end, it comes back with, like, well, with something that kind of makes you think, like, how much of it is just made up for this. Because the title Inception, it's that, so this is the premise. I don't think it's a spoiler, but the main characters, their job is that they can go into people's dreams, and they can either take information from your mind, so they've worked as like spies to do that, or they can give you ideas in your dreams.
Yeah, I know that.
So then that part's kind of like creating art.
I see. I think something that this manga is also pointing out is that he's calling directly back to stuff like The Sixth Sense, and I don't know if the other two movies he's mentioning are real or not, because I've never heard of them, and I didn't feel like looking them up. Just the Brown Bunny and the Permanent Nobara.
Yeah, let's see if
I didn't want to look
those.
I didn't want to look those up because then my Google search history would be like embarrassing. Like it would overlap with like 5 million people who also read it and tried to look it up, and it would feel bad for me to know that I'm one of the people who had to look it up.
You'd rather just be ignorant?
Yeah. Also, it's funny that he's spoiling the plot twist of the Sixth Sense as
and it's like a Shonen
another
Jump
Shonen
tradition by now,
Yes.
spoiling the Sixth Sense.
I like that. I like to think about that as a Shonen Jump.
The editor is
tradition.
like, how are we going to do it this year? Yeah.
Yeah, but like if you could imagine that Eri is also wearing glasses, even though she's already extremely attractive, wouldn't you also give it like at least 99 points?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh, that reminded me another thing that I really liked is when they're watching movies on one of the early times, and he's like kind of bored with it, and she says the line, "You should be glad to be able to spend all day with a babe like me."
Yeah.
It's like, I like characters who are kind of smug like that. And they kept it in, showing he likes it too, even though their friend is like, "Oh, you cut out every part where she's being mean."
That wasn't so mean. That's
no,
just,
it wasn't. It's
just
fun.
a fact.
Yeah.
also, in now that you go back to this montage, it's so elaborate looking at both of their expressions while they watch the movies, because in one of them he's doing like the "what the fuck is this?" and since you can tell she's
seen it
already
before.
moved. And she's
she's like smiling like, "Oh yeah, what are you gonna think about this?"
Yeah, all of these reactions are so good.
Yeah,
and I didn't include it, but in one of them she's looking at him to see his reaction of something.
Very realistic depiction of watching movies together.
You gotta pay so much attention to all of these details in this story. It's so good.
Yeah, lots of details. I feel like this is one of those stories that other artists should study.
Yes,
they should study it.
It should be in a history book.
This should be taught in all film schools, even though it's not a movie yet.
It's better than a movie.
It should be a movie. They should animate this.
By the way, since you said you wanted to reread Chainsaw Man, I wonder, maybe you should just wait until the anime hits. Okay. But also, since you already read Chainsaw Man and these two one-shots, maybe we need to read Fire Punch.
Oh, yeah. You're right. I never even thought about that.
That one's also apparently supposed to be really good, but
what's the title of the one that the main character draws in Look Back? Shark Kick. When can we read Shark Kick?
I wonder if maybe that's the... it's probably not.
No, it'll never appear. We'll just have to keep it in our imaginations.
But this author, Fujimoto Tatsuki, he must have had another one-shot before all of these, because that's how you apply.
One thing that I find interesting about looking through the work of an author is going back and seeing like how their work changes.
And all of the common features.
Yeah, what are the common features and what changed? Because I feel like there's some creators who they'll come up with something that's really good, and then
they repeat it over and over again,
and that's all they got. But some people are like actually
Kubo-Tide, for instance.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big repetition within the same series over and over.
In Chainsaw Man, there was also there were several scenes where they watch movies and put emphasis on saying that watching movies is really important.
Yeah.
So you can tell
this author loves watching movies.
He loves watching movies.
He should co-write something with Kojima.
That would be such a good collaboration.
Such a good game. Because like, you heard about FromSoft, they got another fantasy author to work with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy who finished The Wheel of Time.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
he complained about how FromSoft didn't approach him, even though he's a huge FromSoft fan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They're like, fine, we'll talk.
I think he's also primed to be the guy who will finish Game of Thrones eventually.
Is that how he's been typecast? He's the author who finishes stuff after other ones die?
So I hear. I'm not a big reader myself, so
okay.
that's why I can just repeat what other people are saying, but this is what people are speculating.
Yeah.
And it would have been really funny, and I think he knows that, and I think he thinks that FromSoft should have asked him first,
So
and that's why
he's positioning himself to be the heir to GRRM.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why he was so frustrated that they didn't ask him in the first place.
Right, well,
yeah. I think we've said everything about.
Yeah, I better log off to give my throat a break. I don't know if you hearing it
a little bit more
crackly, but yeah, I'm glad we got to review this one. It's one of those things where it's like I'm not sure how good of a review it is because we're just like, oh yeah, this is so good. Yeah, it's so good. But I had fun talking about it.
Yeah.
And once again, I think everyone listening to this, if you haven't already, go read Goodbye Eri. And if you know anyone who's an anime producer, get them to make it into a movie.
If anything, it's proof that we're not always negative, and that we can like something when it's actually good.
Yeah. Well, I often like One Piece, no matter what.
So do I, but I think sometimes I'm a little bit too generous for One Piece just because One Piece has been good for a long while, and sometimes it's just dragging on.
Yeah. Well, not to drag on this. I've been Principal Fine.
I'm Maxi Burger.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.